And with that, we can begin. Good evening, everyone, or good night, good day, good morning, whatever part of the world you're currently in right now. Tonight, as promised, we will continue with our vampiric politics in Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York. Always happy to see you around. All of you, of course. Let me just start up the game, and we can continue where we left off. The things I am particularly looking forward to... Oh, you get good news and bad news. Well, spill them out then. And I will try to guess whether these align with what I'm thinking right now. Funny, looks like the game Relay window has decided to be a little bit janky, so let me try and fix that in a moment. Maybe even scale it down a little bit. Kind of like so, yes. Acceptable. No idea why I decided to do that, but it's fixed now, and we can continue. Let's see, night 6 is where we have stopped last time. You're walking down the street towards your haven. In some other town, the sidewalks would be deserted this time of night. In NYC, there are plenty of passers-by going about their business. Good news, I may have found employment. Bad news, it might be a graveyard shift with minimal amenities. Well, it's, I mean, yes, that is a job. Hopefully you'll be able to find something better at some point in the future, but for now, it's something. And hey, maybe that means I will be streaming further down the line, provided you will be around to at least watch. Now then, let's continue. It's easy to be paranoid when you're a vampire surrounded by a crowd of humans. The kindred have many enemies, and all those enemies have one trait in common. They are invisible, indistinguishable from normal humanity. Other vampires, hunters, all look like people. Is that old man just a tired restaurant worker or a kindred thrall tailing your movements? Are the officers idly waiting in a patrol car ordinary cops or Second Inquisition specialists looking to end undead threats? This kind of thinking leads to madness, but you can't shake the feeling that someone is watching you. It's not the first time you've felt like this. Whatever this is, it's probably something you have to take care of. Best case, someone is tailing you. Worst case, you'll be attacked and killed. There's a decent chance I won't have a power supply or Wi-Fi. Huh. Well, that sucks. Unfortunately, being undead has its limitations. The sun is coming up soon and you'll burn into a crisp if you stay on the streets. You reach your haven and settle in for the day, disconcerted by the idea that someone might know where you sleep. As you wake from your slumber and emerge from your haven for the night, you notice a familiar face on the other side of the street, standing in the corner and looking straight at you. It's Kaiser's lackey whom you met recently, Jackie. He nods to you, encouraging you to approach. His hands are outside of his pockets, and he seems pretty relaxed. He's keeping his eyes on the street, though, as if making sure you're alone. He smiles awkwardly when you approach. Evening. Got something for you from our mutual friend. He produces a crumpled piece of paper from his jacket pocket and hands it to you. Read it, memorize it, then give it back here. It's a letter. The paper might be just a page ripped out of a spiral notebook, but the writing on it is exquisitely detailed and deliberate. It reads, "Time to square your debt with me. Go to the wine shop at 232 Mulberry Street and ask for the 1821 Special Reserve Donatello Negro Amaro. When they tell you they don't have it, say you're a fedele servitore della famiglia G. Those exact fucking words, and make sure you get the G right." My Italian is not as good as it could be, but I'm thinking that means loyal servant of G family. G in this case, I guess is standing in for Giovanni. You'll get a bottle. Just take it and leave by saying grazie. Don't ask how much it is or anything else, just walk out. When you have it, come back to Jackie boy here and let him know. You done? Memorize all that shit and hand it over. I don't see what the rush is, buddy. Hey, it's your funeral. I can stand here all night and enjoy a nice sunrise while I'm at it. Not a luxury you have. Just hand me back the letter once you're done. You note the phrases and address mentioned in the letter, then hand it back to Jackie. He immediately reaches for a lighter and burns the letter, putting out the ashes with his boot. So yeah, when you do what the boss asks, come back here so I can tell you where to go next. I'll be in that alley over there, so find me when you have the item, whatever it is. I don't know, and the boss made it extra clear that I shouldn't care, so I don't. See ya. He shuffles away and leaves you to pursue the lead from the letter. Time to pay a visit to Nolita. You arrive at the address mentioned in the note. Not counting local restaurant patrons, the street is mostly empty at this time of night, but curiously the wine shop is still open. Inside, a small middle-aged woman with curly hair stands behind the counter in front of a wall filled with wine bottles. There's a door at the back of the room with a small table and chair, occupied by a man in a black faux leather jacket with slick, combed-back hair. He's reading a newspaper, but pauses as a little bell rings when you open the door. He takes a sip from a small, steaming cup, then gets back to his broadsheet. Good evening. How can I help you? Wow, you got such a big selection of wine. Say, you wouldn't have a bottle of the 1821 Special Reserve Donatello Negro Amaro, would you? She gives you a curious look. Let me check. She seems to be looking through a database on the laptop sitting on the counter. She puts in a polite smile. I'm afraid we don't have that one at the moment, sorry. I'm sure you'll find a bottle for a Fedele Servitore della Famiglia G, right? She raises an eyebrow. Let me see if we have any in the back. The woman leaves the counter and goes through the doors in the back. The man by the table puts down his newspaper and takes another sip from the cup, washing it down with a gulp of water from the nearby glass. Yeah, that's not suspicious at all. He tries to hide it, but there's no doubt he's watching you. About a minute passes. Let's not attract any obvious attention. You remind yourself of what Kaiser wrote in the letter and keep quiet, patiently waiting for the woman to return from the back of the store. The man finishes his drink and starts doodling on the newspaper, his eyes darting to you every so often. The doors to the back of the store open and the proprietor emerges with a small, unlabeled, squat bottle of crimson liquid. She gives you an apologetic smile. Scusi, sorry for taking so long. Turns out we did have it. She offers you the bottle and you reach out to grab it, but she retracts it. You do know what this is, don't you? Time to reassert ourselves. You focus your blood and immediately see both of the people in the shop focus intently on you and what you're about to say. I know exactly what this is, and I'm the right person to give it to. The woman gives you the bottle without hesitation. Grazie. Deciding you've pushed your luck far enough, you nod and exit the store, then take a brisk walk to your car. Nobody follows you as you leave Nolita and drive back to your apartment. It takes you some time to find a parking spot, but you finally get out of the car and start looking for Jackie. He's not far from where you parted ways, just under 2 hours ago. Got the goods? I sure do. Cool. Stand by, I gotta make the call. He takes a few more steps into a narrow space between two buildings and takes out the same high-tech phone you saw him carrying last time. Hey, boss. Yeah, they have it. Where do I point them to? Okay. Yeah, I'll tell them to go there right away. He puts the phone back in his pocket and turns back to you. Well, it's point. Half an hour, so you better step on it. See you around. With only a flippant salute, Jackie starts walking down the street. You make your way back to the car and drive. You had to push the speed limit to make it on time, but you were here. Willets Point is quite a change of scenery. The place is a post-industrial dump, the nearby stadium notwithstanding. You stop your car once you realize that if you go any further down, the potholes will kill your chassis. You step out into one of those gashes in the asphalt, splashing in the ankle-deep water. Kaiser's limo is nowhere to be seen. In fact, the whole place is pretty much deserted, other than the apparent proprietor of a lonely bar, a middle-aged woman who is just locking the place up. You take a walk around the neighborhood. It mostly consists of rundown shops and garages with more than a few derelict cars left here over the years to rust. You imagine it must be a great place for one of the sewer rats to hide in, so you're on your guard the whole time, but as far as you can tell, you're the only kindred here. Curious as to what that liquid was? Oh, isn't that obvious? It's only when you hear a car stopping nearby and see that it's apparently Kaiser's black limo that you relax a bit and approach it. Same as last time, the car door is open, but nobody comes out. You know the drill. This time Kaiser is visible when you look inside. You sit down and close the door behind you. So, you pulled it up without a hitch, then? Give it here. You hand the bottle over to the Nosferatu. He uncorks it gently, takes a whiff, and puts the cork back in. Yeah, that's the stuff. Good job, kid. Consider your debt paid. Oh yeah, and also take this. It's what Langley wanted. He passes you an envelope with what feels like a thick card inside. Now we're even. Sure, fledgling, if that's the way you want to see it. I'll send Jackie over if I ever need anything else from you. How about that? Time for you to get out, now. He waves you out of the car. With the envelope in hand, you get out, back into the torn asphalt and decrepit surroundings. The limo slowly drives away. Finally, you can return to Sophie and bring her what she wanted. Gregory lets you in. You hear a shrill, unpleasant laugh, and you realize Sophie's having a guest over. Thomas Arturo. You met in Elysium a few nights back. That shriek is unmistakable. Yeah, but that most likely is VtM. Ah, Eric, so glad to see you. Tell me, did you two have a chance to talk previously? Thomas speaks up before you can. Why, yes, of course. And such a good first impression you made, too. Miss Langley clearly did the right thing by taking you under her wing. I'm sure she thinks so, too, don't you, Sophie? Why, of course, Of course you do. Of course. Well, I believe I must be going. I'll be sure to let Prince Panhard know your thoughts, Miss Langley. Word for word, or as close as I can remember them. I appreciate it, Thomas. You two enjoy your night now. Good night, Sophie. Eric, Greggy boy. He gives you a sly smile. Sophie's driver opens the door for Arturo, and the guest steps out with a single wave of the hand towards his host and you. The doors close. So what's his deal? Same as everyone's. Position, power, influence. Thomas had clout in court and access to many juicy details on everyone from the prince to the lowliest primogen. It's useful to have him on your side, even if his eccentricity requires some patience. Speaking of patience, you have been putting mine to the test lately. Did you manage to contact Kaiser and acquire what I asked for? Yes, I have it, but the data you offered was old news to him. I had to do another job for him before he would give me this card. She retrieves the envelope from you. I'm sure he did. I do hope it wasn't too much of an inconvenience. He made me go on an entirely separate escapade to retrieve a bottle of wine from a store in Nolita. I had to use code phrases and whatnot. Wine shop? Code phrases? That degenerate pest. She's visibly agitated, but calms down and smiles at you. Don't worry about it. I'll make sure that whatever Kaiser had you do, it'll blow over. She opens the envelope and looks at the card. You notice the same lettering you saw in Kaiser's note from before, but can't see the details. Her eyes widen. Yes, excellent. I need to call in some favors. I will likely be busy for the next few nights. You have my permission to show some initiative, my dear Charge. I will contact you soon. With that, Sophie ushers you outside, and you are left to do with the rest of this night's hours as you like. One visit. So, we can go back to Hope. We can go back to D'Angelo. We can try to make contact with Tamika or Agathon, or we can pursue our own objective of someone who is watching me. Personally leaning towards this one, but would like to hear any other suggestions. In the meantime, let's go over the options. Somebody's watching me, part 1. Recently, you're feeling as if somebody keeps tailing you. Time to confirm your suspicions. Our master's voice. Kara wants to meet. Hope decides you should see her alone. With an ace up your sleeve. The gift that keeps on giving. It's been a while since you heard from D'Angelo. Maybe he's busy, sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. Or maybe he pissed off the wrong people and is now rotting in a ditch somewhere. Either way, now is as good time as any to check up on him. Jezebel's Childer. Sophie mentioned a gangrel neonate by the name of Tamika who's made herself a haven in Prospect Park. The Farrells aren't exactly a social bunch even by kindred standards, but if you can't keep her from clawing your eyes out just long enough, she might be persuaded to join you. It's a kind of magic. Sophie's mention of a vampire clan of blood sorcerers sparked your attention. One of them, Agathon, could potentially be your introduction into the bizarre powers of the Tremere. But considering we only have one visit for this night, because it is already midnight, as I said, I'm leading towards somebody's watching me. D'Angelo needs help ASAP. Then let's go with that. I'm sure our mysterious stalker can wait. You make your way through the now familiar rusty maze of the grain terminal and up the stairs to D'Angelo's office. This time, however, you find the room firmly locked. There's a note pinned on the door. You rip it off and scan the crooked lettering. There's been another one. At the scene now. Come to Bed-Stuy. Corner of Pulaski and Garvey. ASAP. Looks like D'Angelo could use your help. Better get going. As you approach the address D'Angelo gave you, a squad car passes you by, sirens blaring. Following it, you take a turn from DeKalb Avenue onto Pulaski Street. Sure enough, the street is awash with red lights, and the 4 or so police cars parked in the nearest corner next to an ambulance confirm that you're in the right place. You move closer to what appears to be a New York's finest convention, looking around in the hopes of spotting a familiar, if not altogether pleasant, face. No such luck. True to his Nosferatu lineage, D'Angelo is nowhere to be seen. You stop on the sidewalk across the street, try not to draw attention to yourself. All of a sudden, one of the cops standing by this entrance to the building looks straight at you. He does a double take and you instinctively look away. Bad move, you think to yourself as you notice him making his way toward you. Well, since he's already approaching us, running away will just raise suspicion. Not allowing panic to set in, you stand your ground doing your best ordinary citizen impression. The cop waddles across the street towards you, his sense of authority putting that extra spring in his step. You try to remain calm, even as he puts his hand on his holster. Shit, you can't help but mouth the word. This is about to get messy. Suddenly he stops as if instinctively realizing that he was just inches away from a grisly demise. He waves at you dismissively and yells in a thick Brooklyn accent. Hey, this here's an active crime scene. Be on your way. Relieved but trying not to show it, you put on your grumpy New Yorker face and start to walk away. As you make your way past the dark alleyway, someone grabs you by the arm and pulls you into the shadows. If the smell of cigars and cheap cologne don't give him away, the gravelly voice sure does. Nice save. I mean, dumb to show your face around here in the first place, but still. Come on, I parked around the corner. Before you know it, you're sitting in the passenger seat of a busted old sedan parked half a block away, giving you a nice view of the police gathering. Why don't I talk to them? I might convince them to let us in. He gives you a look as if you were just let rip a massive fart. Right. Look, kid, it's not that I don't trust you, but how about we give that raw animal magnetism of yours a dry run, huh? Pretend I'm one of the cops guarding the entrance. Convince me to let you in. I think I can pose as a tenant. Because I sure as hell won't pass for a detective. Not in that getup of mine. Yes, I know I look like a $5 store Ichiban, but hey, let's be reasonable. Evening, officers. I live here. Is there a problem? Yeah, this here's an active crime scene. Be on your way. But, hey, it's your butt against mine. Get lost. Trust me, I'll think of something. Fair enough. Go get him, Tiger. I'll stay close by just in case things go south. You get out of the car, slamming the door a bit too loudly for your own good. As you cross the street, you already feel like you've made a big mistake. Oh well, too late to turn back now. Might as well give it your best shot. As you approach the cops, your whole body tenses up. It's funny this would make you nervous, considering all you've been these past few nights. And yet, it does. We're far from looking like infinite wealth. Indeed. The two officers seem to be engaged in a heated debate regarding last night's Mets game. You stop just a few steps away and open your mouth. Whatever's about to come out, it better be good. Considering they've already seen us, maybe we do need to just use our powers to let them get us in. After all, our face is not very forgettable. But then again, let's roll the dice. And just like that, You freeze. One of the cops notices you and gives you a slight nod. Yeah, hey, if you're going in, make sure you stay away from 209. Active crime scene, you know? And with that, they get back to arguing whether or not the umpire was bought and paid for or not. Utterly confused, you piece together what's left of your senses and hurry past them. Inside the building, D'Angelo stands in the hallway, dumbfounded. As you open your mouth, he stops you with a gesture. Don't even talk to me right now. In awkward silence, you both make your way up to the second floor. Finding the crime scene proves easy enough. You just follow the yellow police tape, and before you know it, you're standing in the middle of what used to be someone's living room. The place has been completely trashed. Knocked over furniture, shattered glass, the works. Looking around you, you notice a sign scribbled on a nearby wall. It reads, "His gift, our fate." You're no expert in typography, but the crooked letters look similarly to the ones you saw back in Red Hook. Sure enough, there's very little in terms of blood, save for the occasional stain that's bound to end up on the carpet once you toss someone through a glass coffee table. D'Angelo leans against the doorway. He seems lost in his thoughts, sucking on his cigar compulsively and mumbling to himself. You lean over a bit, trying to not make it obvious that you are listening in. You manage to catch the last few lines of his monologue. I've been kind to them so far, but the questions keep piling on, and now they've found themselves amidst the wreckage of another life. It was up to them to sift through the debris and come up with a neat little pile of answers. Suddenly, he tenses up as if scenting your eyes upon him. Feel free to chip in, kid. Anything catch your eye? His gift, our fate. Yeah, there's that. What do you think it means? His gift. Isn't there a theory that Cain was the first vampire? Oh, it's more than a theory. To some, it's a deeply held belief. And yeah, you're right. It's about the gift of Cain, as in vampirism. Our fate. Clearly, someone wasn't too happy to receive it. God damn it, I hate where this is going. Why? The thin blood angle seems to check out. It looks like you were right. Yeah, well, this time I'd rather be wrong, alright? Anyway, looks like we're not getting any more out of this place. No way around it. We gotta see the body. In for a penny, in for a pound. Might as well be prudent. My thoughts exactly. The Duskborn have it bad as it is. If I'm gonna accuse one of them of breaching the masquerade, I want solid evidence. And I mean rock fucking solid. Luckily for us, I might know someone who could get us an audience with our dearly departed. To your surprise, he pulls out a cell phone, a busted old clamshell. He flips it open and spends a good minute browsing through the contacts, muttering to himself. Finally, he makes a call. Hey. You know who this is. Yeah, that favor you owe me, time to deliver. Listen, I know you got a fresh one, the murder in Bed-Stuy. Ah, yes, the guy who killed his bro and was given superpowers by God. Well, yeah. For further references, just watch Seth's review of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. He can sum it up quite neatly. As for why D'Angelo is protecting Thin Bloods, I'm guessing it's because the Thin Blood Primogen is the only decent one in that pile of snakes that is the Camarilla Council of New York City. I need to take a look. Yes, now. Yeah, you'd better. With that, he hangs up and gives you his trademark wry smile. So, are we good? Yeah, we're good. Next up, Kings County. Kings County, the bleeding heart of Brooklyn. It's beating as hard as ever, with ambulance after ambulance bringing in sick and wounded New Yorkers to be pumped through the tight arteries of the healthcare system. Yeah, the only downside, he can't sit in the sun, and God drew a dong on his forehead. Yeah, I think by this point he is sorry for what he did. Thoroughly sorry. But God won't come back to accept the apology. It's a dangerous place for a kindred to show their face, incessantly crowded and full of people who specialize in noticing all sorts of physical afflictions. Especially the sort that make up the very essence of a vampire's existence. For instance, death. Thankfully, your business here tonight keeps you away from the hectic human hive of the ER. Instead, you follow D'Angelo to a relatively quiet part of the underground parking lot that's closest to your current point of interest, the Kings County Morgue. Having found yourself a convenient and suitably unlit spot near the hospital wall, you wait patiently for D'Angelo's contact to appear. Every now and then you glance over at the undead gumshoe, as if to make sure his moldy mug isn't showing any signs of worry. It isn't. Or at least he's very good at hiding it. Finally, after 30 minutes or so, a lone figure emerges from the side entrance. As the human-shaped shadow walks by, you're quick to recognize him as the EMT you saw back at the murder site. Clearly nervous, the 20-something-year-old redhead can't seem to help but look back and make sure no one is following him. Well, yeah, of course Grandpa is still alive. He's just not very sociable. Finally, he stops and lights up a cigarette. Without even looking in your direction, he takes a puff and exclaims seemingly to no one in particular. Room 112. You got 20 minutes. D'Angelo speaks without looking at you. That's our cue. You follow the fanged detective through that same door the EMT walked out of. Luckily, this wing of the hospital seems unusually empty. Still, the confidence with which D'Angelo makes his way through the white and green corridors makes it clear. He's been here before. Finally, he stops in front of one of the doors. Room 112. That's your stop. The room is small, with only one oversized freezer by the wall and a single slab mounted in its center. Sure enough, the body of a middle-aged man is splayed out on its steel surface. Even for a dead man, he seems unnaturally pale. Extreme blood loss will do that to you. Try as you might, you can't help but look at the man's face. His features twisted in abject horror. This was not a peaceful death. Looking closely, you notice two small puncture wounds in the victim's neck. If there ever was a clearer sign of a vampire attack, you've yet to see it. Looking over at D'Angelo, you notice his lips moving in his familiar fashion. He's narrating again. Before he can utter an unintelligible word, you cut in with a remark. Oh, I've seen what his stat sheet looks like. It basically reads, "You lose," over and over again. I'm not even kidding. I think I will post it over on the server once I retrieve it. Jesus. The look on his face. It's like nightmare fuel. No kidding. Which means he was fully aware all the way through. He knew he was dying, which, combined with the blood loss and the teeth marks in his neck, confirms our hypothesis. We have a serial thin blood in our hands. Fuck. As if on cue, the door swings open. A tired-looking man with a stethoscope around his neck walks in. With his eyes fixed on his clipboard, he doesn't appear to notice you. Yet. Let's try to play it stealthy. Quickly, quietly, you hop behind the oversized freezer, hoping D'Angelo will follow suit. Pressed against the wall, you tense up, hoping for the best but expecting the worst. The room, however, remains silent. You peer out from behind the freezer to assess the situation. The doctor calmly looks over the victim, jots something down on his clipboard, and walks out. If you could breathe a sigh of relief, you would. So hard. D'Angelo materializes from the shadows lingering against the wall across from you. He gives you a slight nod. Nice save, kid. My first instinct was to jump him, but hey, whatever works. Now come on, let's get out of here. Time to pay our dear Primogen another visit. Robert Larson's home looks about the same as last time. No added security, no angry dogs prowling the yard. It appears that the thin-blood Primogen would rather risk another visit from his old pal D'Angelo than to arouse suspicion from his family and neighbors. Which is good, considering that's what he's about to get. Sure enough, the light in Larson's study is on, and even catch a glimpse of the man himself shuffling around the room. You look over to D'Angelo, wondering how you're gonna get Larson's attention this time. Without a single word, D'Angelo walks over to a nearby street lamp and leans against it, making sure he's visible to any and all who happen to look. Looks like the time for subtlety is over. It only takes a couple of minutes for Larson to take notice. You see him lean against the window and storm out of the room. In mere seconds, he's out in front and in D'Angelo's face. Listen to me, you moldy fuck. I've had just about enough of your shit. You wanna pester me? Fine, but leave my family out of it. For a moment, D'Angelo just stands there, motionless, allowing Larson to get his frustrations out. Suddenly, he grabs the thin blood by the collar, lifts him off the ground, and smashes his back against the lamppost. You finished? Alright. Now you listen to me and listen good. You think I'm enjoying this? You think I like to be jerked around? You think I got nothing better to do than hang around this little puppet theater you've made for yourself? Now, either you give me a lead I can follow, or I'll start remembering things you'd rather forget. For the first time you've met him, Larson looks speechless. His eyes wide with fear, he can only mutter under his breath. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Cue awkward silence. You stand there, shifting your eyes from one vampire to the other. Guess it's time to either press the advantage or play the good cop. Look, we're all a bit stressed out. How about we all just take a deep breath, figuratively speaking? Nah, I don't feel like it. I tried being nice, but some people don't appreciate nice. Some people will do anything to cover their asses. Isn't that right, Robert? If you want my help, put me the fuck down. With his feet back on the ground, Larson straightens his collar in a faint attempt at preserving some shred of dignity. There's a place in Manhattan, Lower East Side, one of the few places in the city where my people can find shelter. Yeah, I know it. If you go there right now, you might find what you're looking for. D'Angelo stares at him for a moment, just long enough to make it uncomfortable. We'd better. Finally, D'Angelo loosens his grip. You both watch Larson limp back to his house, looking back over his shoulder, like he's gonna tell the teacher on you. You look to your partner, meaning to ask what that whole things-you-rather-forget deal was. As if sensing your curiosity, D'Angelo cuts in with a preemptive mutter. Come on, we got what we came for. As you reach the address Larson gave you, you find yourself standing in front of what looks like an old garage. On the outside, the place looks as uninteresting as it gets. You'd think it abandoned if not for a few barely working lights illuminating its shabby facade. Once you're inside, however, if there ever was a place worthy of being called a wretched hive of scum and villainy, this is probably it. The room is littered with drunks and crackheads, human and thin blood alike, their minds lost in their cruel little worlds, their bodies splayed out across the floor. D'Angelo leans over and whispers in your ear. I'll cover the back door. You stay near the front. Let's look around and see what we can find. Before you can ask what exactly you're supposed to be looking for, D'Angelo disappears into the shadows. Doing your best to blend in with the crowd, which is fairly difficult considering your upright position, you slowly make your way across the large room. Not really knowing what you're looking for, you focus on the details. A knowing smirk, a hateful stare, anything that looks even the slightest bit suspicious. After a dozen or so empty stares, you're almost ready to give up when suddenly something catches your eye. A young, skinny woman hunched in a corner of the room. She gives you a bewildered look, a 1,000-yard stare that tells you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's her. As you walk towards her, D'Angelo emerges from the shadows right next to you. Nice catch. He kneels down beside her. You can tell he's trying to sound as comforting as possible, but with his gravelly timbre, it's not really working out. Hey, it's okay. We're not here to hurt you. We just want to talk. No, don't talk. Too loud. Too loud. She seems halfway out of it. It's like the lights are on, but whoever's inside is stumbling around after one hell of a bender. Alright, you like quiet. Got it. Can you tell me your name? Sana. That's what he called me. Man, Sana let herself go after the graduation, huh? Suddenly you hear the door swing and open behind you. Even though the night is fairly warm, a cold chill runs down your spine. You look towards the entrance. There is a woman standing there, and something about her just screams kindred. Even though she seems comically overdressed for the situation, somehow you don't feel like cracking a smile. Whoever she is, you can tell she means business. She starts making her way to the back of the room, not making any effort to sidestep any of the junkies and drunks. They all know well enough to get out of her way. Acting out of bravery or sheer stupidity, you walk up to her. She looks at you as if you were something she just scraped off her shoe. You smile nervously, without even knowing it. As soon as you open your mouth, her hand shoots out, grabbing you by the throat. The woman looks at you, tilting her head, as if examining a curious species of insect. Suddenly, her eyes shift as she notices something behind you. Her face turns from disgusted curiosity to sheer annoyance. You. Hey, Val. That's my assistant you got there. Do you mind? She rolls her eyes. You feel the grip on your neck loosen and you awkwardly fall to your feet. She makes her way towards D'Angelo, pushing you aside like a ragdoll. Where is she? You're gonna have to be a bit more specific, darling. Don't play coy, Ginny. The manslayer. I know she's here. A blood hunt has begun. By order of the prince herself, the girl is to meet her final death. Hold your horses, honey. I'm conducting an investigation under the auspices of the sheriff. That counts for something, too. Look, sweetie, I'm not here for some click measuring contest. If you want this to get ugly, be my guest. Otherwise, I suggest you step aside and let me do my job. By all means. He steps aside in a comically exaggerated fashion. You look at the corner where you last saw Asana, but find no trace of the girl. Well, I'll be. I could swear she was right just here. Valerie looks at D'Angelo. She smiles softly, but you can tell she's trying very hard not to rip his head off. You'll regret this. Story of my life. Without another word, she turns on her heel and storms out. D'Angelo waves his hand in your general direction. Come on, kid. Let's get out of this shithole. As you emerge from said shithole, you feel the cool night breeze caress your face. It's soothing and almost makes you forget how shitty the last few hours have been. Almost. Okay, kid. I know you got the questions, but it's getting early and I don't feel like having a Q&A session right now. For now, you get one question. Make it count. Our perp's gone and now we're in some psycho chick's shit list. What the hell do we do now? Well, the good news is we know who we're looking for. The bad news, Valerie knows it as well. She's a scourge, kid. Part enforcer, part assassin, all around pain in the ass. We'll be seeing more of her, you can bet on that. So, Scourge. An executor subordinated directly to the prince. Therefore, she technically supersedes our authority, since we are acting on sheriff's authority. And before you ask, yes, we've run into each other in the past. No, I don't feel like talking about it. Alright, kid. I don't know about you, but I'm turning in. I'll figure some stuff out and keep looking for our girl. Feel free to swing by the office in a night or two. And with that, he stumbles off into the distance, not even bothering to keep the shadows. Can't say you blame him. It really has been a rough night. Ooh. What do we have here? 2 new options. Faith and Myth, Part 2. Benoit Segal wants to meet you again at the cathedral. Wonder whether that mysterious priest will be there. A Nosy Reporter, Part 1. There's a sleazy reporter from a gossip magazine sniffing around Sophie's Haven. She could use your help with a problem. Maybe it's time to also deal with our personal matters. After all, we do have options. Strange bedfellows. As you leave your haven, a homeless man bumps into you. You turn after him, but he blends into the crowd before you can even get a good look at his face. Instinctively, you check your pocket. A note? Looking at Manhattan Bridge. Come over. D. Therefore, time to deal with our personal stalker. Someone is following you around. Has been for a few nights, maybe longer. That can be a good thing. The only question is, what to do about it? We're not gonna run to Sophie about this. We can deal with it ourselves. Well, I won't say that this game is huge. It's certainly on par with a decent visual novel. You venture out to the street with the goal of letting your stalker know you're aware of being followed. It's time to stop this ridiculous charade. Or charade. It's raining outside, and as you step onto the street in front of your haven, you wonder whether that'll help you. Will you be able to see the footprints of your stalker in puddles on the ground? Not sure where to start, you slip a few bills to a homeless man and chat up the guy who runs the local bodega. Both of them talk your ear off about strange characters hanging around, but none of their stories seem right to you. Walking the streets, you're convinced by turns that everyone you see is an enemy agent out to get you, and that your stalker has decided to take the night off. Frustrated after a couple of hours of useless searching, you cross the road without looking where you're going. A courier on a motorbike zooms toward you and has no time to brake or swerve as you suddenly step in front of him. For a split second, your eyes meet those of the man on the bike, and you both know you'll collide. You'll get hurt. Something hits you, pushing you forward. You tumble, flying to the sidewalk as the courier zooms past. You feel a weight on your back, catch a glimpse of something, a person, female, you think, and then she disappears. You could spend a couple more hours trying to find the woman who's been stalking you, but in your shriveled, undead heart you know it to be futile. She's gone. Well, that side quest has led us nowhere. Guess we've made the wrong choice. And cut that avenue short, unfortunately. So, who's up for visiting Hope? Come on, not everyone at once. But yes, let's continue with her personal quest. When you reach the cafe, you're welcomed by the familiar face of the waiter who first led you inside. You exchange looks and nods. He hides his vape pen in a back pocket. He's been expecting you. Something happened to her car and she hasn't exactly left her room ever since. And once again, I will note that this man is how I picture our mutual friend May looking like. He scratches his head, shrugs and gestures at you to follow him. It's the same route as before. First, beyond the locked door at the end of the room with all the computers, then into an endless grey labyrinth. Finally, you reach a door that would look like any other to a random bystander. Outside, by now you know that Hope's Haven lies beyond. Of course, by now you know that Hope's Haven lies beyond it. The waiter bids you adieu with an exaggerated bow and starts walking back to the cafe. You enter the familiar room. This time the lights are on inside. Hope is inside, walking around nervously, overseeing every screen in sight. When she spots you, she wastes no time on introductions. I am not okay at all. Kara Montgomery, what do you know of her? You could have seen her in listicles such as Top 5 Baddest Women in Tech 2018, 12 CEOs who spark innovation through empathy, or 20 entrepreneurs with mysterious ties to Jeffrey Epstein. You don't get to voice your answer. The question was just a minor courtesy. She has a monologue to deliver, and she won't allow any interruption. 20 years ago, she was a failed dot-com investor. Now she's a CEO of Double Spiral, a brand management startup, working at the crossroads of big data and influencer culture. The quotation marks are audible, dripping with venom. Long story short, she has spent years convincing her Camarilla contacts, as in out-of-touch old farts angry about smartphones, that Kindred can benefit from controlling the internet. Her IT ghouls have done a lot of research on deepfakes, AI, and machine learning. Her goal is the ability to generate thousands of believably human online accounts. Oh no. She is making bot farms. Basically an army of posters that could brute force anything into the mainstream discourse. The elders took a while to get the concept, but eventually Kara got their blessing. The thing is, she claims her tech is ready to be tested, but it needs one final component to work properly, and that's why... She pauses. She proposed a truce. Truce? What kind of truce? Malk David Chapman. The become my friend or face a violent death kind of truce. Not exactly fucking convincing if you ask me. But no matter how much I hate her guts, this is a blessing in disguise. Hear me out. She picked a public place in Manhattan, neutral ground where we can meet without the fear that the other party might do something stupid and violate the masquerade. She wants to just talk. You will go there in my place and listen to her terms. We won't accept them, of course, especially not after she just tried to kill us. You will just steal her voice and walk away. Steal her voice? What next? Will you trade her mermaid tail for legs? Context collapsed. A Disney joke? Sweet. What next? You will hit me with a topical Harry Potter reference? Damn, she sees right through me. What a typical Slytherin, huh? Do not choke me through the screen. I'm not trying to be obtuse here. Wait a second and let me explain my plan. Revenge plotter. You see, there is only one way to even the odds. We have to hit Kara where it hurts, and she's only got one weak point. Double Spiral headquarters. Kara's the only person there with access to every room. The security is something she came up with herself. Voice-based, but using a different password phrase every time. That means just recording her talking is not enough if we want to get in. That's why I started selling illicit materials to people with access to advanced deepfake audio technology. I've got it right in this room, and now all I need is a sample base that will allow me to manufacture a bot that talks like her. To monitor data, I need to stay behind. Still, I think the plan is pretty simple. You talk to her while wearing a wire, I process the recordings here to steal her voice, and voila, she's wide open. Then we invade Double Spiral and destroy it from within. The evil is defeated, I become part of your crew, happy ending for everybody. How does that sound to you? She wanted to talk to you. Why would she talk to me? Yeah, she's too stuck up to talk to a total rando, but given an opportunity to get Sophie Langley's right hand on her side, she won't let it pass her by. And even if you weren't a minor celebrity in the city, I'm sure our connection would have been enough to hear you out. Hope shakes her head and claps her hands. When she speaks up, she sounds different. More spaced out. Stuttering. Anti-social engineering. Alright, let me fix you up with the hardware. She hands you a minuscule earpiece and starts attaching a small decorative pin to your clothes, along with some masked wiring. It's a directional microphone. I can clean up the audio later, but keep it pointed directly at Kara as much as possible, alright? You put on the earpiece she gave you. It fits snugly deep inside your right ear. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. The hardware works flawlessly and the audio quality seems great. You give Hope an affirmative sign with your head. Beautiful. Kara designated the meeting place as the Vessel. You've heard about the place, right? It's right by the eastern end of the Lincoln Tunnel. A giant pile of staircases, basically impossible to miss. Manhattan's answer to the Eiffel Tower, or a gaudy monument to being only ever so slightly free, depending on who you ask. I drive you there, but my car is still in the shop and I don't want to risk being spotted by Kara's people, and I need to process the voice data from here. Which means I have a perfectly acceptable number of excuses to not letting myself get anywhere close to that demonic old hag. You involuntarily roll your eyes a little bit. Hope sits in front of her screens, pretending not to have noticed. So, should we get this show on the road or what? Ready whenever you are. No sense lingering here. Get back to the street and find your car. Wrapping up this show as quickly as possible sounds like a good idea. On this end, however, show must go on. Around 30 minutes later, you are in front of the Vessel. Hope's description, a giant pile of staircases, wasn't particularly helpful. From the distance, the building looks more like a giant honeycomb designed to swarm with tourist bees. At least during the day, that is. At the moment, the place is closed to general public. A few men who look vaguely threatening and out of place are making sure nobody unwanted gets in. However, you have no problem getting up the stairs. All it takes is an exchange of knowing glances with one of the guards. You're expected. A lone figure appears in your sight, staring down at the streets of Manhattan. You know, city people often complain about being unable to see the starry skies. But I always thought the real tragedy was how they are unable to appreciate the man-made sea of lights that surrounds them. You can teach people a lot of things, but you can't teach them to see, huh? You recognize the face from Hope's phone. Finally, you meet Kara Montgomery in the flesh. She turns to you, puts on a wide smile, and shakes your hand with a firm grip. First, a representative of Sophie Langley, now a representative of Hope. Not the way I developed my own career, but I gotta say, not many neonates get around the way you do. Contents under pressure? Hardy fucking har. Hope speaks up in your ear for the first time, seething with contempt. Although Kara couldn't possibly have heard her, she immediately goes on to address her absence. Can't say I expected her to actually arrive here, with you or instead of you. On the other hand, I'm sure every single word I say will be instantly relayed to her. Chinese Democrat, and for the first time in forever, you empty blabbering will serve an actually useful cause. So let me make sure we cut out everyone but the middleman for a while, okay? She takes out her phone and taps the touchscreen. In a few seconds, the barely perceptible buzzing sound in your ear disappears completely. You can't hear Hope anymore. It's probably she can't hear your voice right now either, which would mean she must be busy raging and cursing out everything in her sight at that moment. This obviously wasn't something she expected to happen. Could it be that Kara saw through your plan? You have to play it cool and see what happens next. Honestly, coming to a meeting with a tech mogul and not expecting him to have an EMP or a jammer on him is something you should account for, every time. Knowing Hope, you've probably heard whatever scraps she can be googled about me and a pile of insults for good measure. Obviously, I know everything there's to be known about you as well, Eric. I don't believe we have a need for normal introductions, but first off, let me apologize for the discomfort my former employee has caused you. I wasn't remotely aware of his planned actions against Hope. I fully condemn them. I'm glad to see you unharmed and of course applaud your swift disposal of the psycho. Langley chose you well. A bunch of corporate non-words, if you ask me. Brief silence. So let me cut to the chase here and present myself the best way I know how. Through my ideas. Who do you think has a monopoly on reality? Not much for small talk, is she? Who do you think has a monopoly on reality? I don't know. What do you viewers think? Imagine me pointing at the screen like Jax from the recent Amazing Digital Circus episode. However, I'm going to be honest and say, well, corporations is a cyberpunk kind of answer. The state is modern answer, and we do is World of Darkness answer. After all, we do shape the narrative in some way, but not fully. Therefore, I think I'm gonna go with we do. We do. Kara raises her eyebrow. Now that's a platitude I've ever heard. If I've ever heard. Now that's a platitude if I've ever heard one. Unless you mean us as in the kindred. A monopoly is a bit much, but yes, we've been pretty adept at controlling the narrative regarding our existence throughout the ages. Too bad we've started slipping up recently. We were completely unprepared for the information era, and the existence of the Second Inquisition is a direct consequence of that. So many final deaths that could have been avoided. But unlike Hope, who decided to separate herself from this shit show and criticize from a safe distance without offering any solutions, I'm here to take matters into my own hands. She signals to someone behind you. For a while you've been watched by Kara's men who circle around the staircases, presumably her ghouls. One of them sets off downstairs. You know, Bolivia just had a military coup. Hundreds of new accounts posting about nothing but Bolivian politics in English set out to convince every random person online that the US wasn't to blame. Sloppy work, if you ask me. Now imagine this. A 17-year-old K-pop fan from Ohio writing an entire thread about how her relatives in La Paz are actually glad the president is gone. A film reviewer with a side interest in politics selling you a CIA-approved narrative about Eva Morales. An approachable fitness guy explaining the situation to you in simple terms, just like it is. Animated voice, expressive gestures, and steady eye contact. She's taught herself how to project a good image, but isn't a natural yet. At times, it feels as if she's screaming at you to trust her. It's not hard to emulate the masses. Reach out to one of those Eastern European troll farms, and bang! A few hours later, you have a clone army that will instantly voice their support for any cause. Da, comrade. You will spread your message, but you won't foster a new culture that serves your goals, won't masquerade your messaging as independent thought. For that, you need personalities, not the masses. But the ability to emulate personalities, a whole different ballgame. Not a craft, but an art. You need to understand your fabrication so deeply that you start to hate it, and then learn to love it. And if you want to make a bunch of those personalities follow one agenda, you need a once-in-a-lifetime team to achieve that. A like-minded artistic collective, both ambitious and obedient. Even though you can't hear Hope's voice in your ear right now, you could swear you hear her in Kara's speech. It's the exact same tone she was using when monologuing in the car. One of them must have been a big influence on another. Or perhaps they used to be in a position where they both shaped each other as personas? Hard to say. Only one thing is for sure. And that is, Hope must be absolutely furious right now. Is it possible that Kara knew about her plot? Fingers crossed she doesn't. The state is satisfied when an account that went unused for 5 years suddenly starts yelling imperialist propaganda into the void. The aging corporations are too set in their ways. But imagine a fresh startup that enables the proliferation of ideas adjacent to the prince's plans for the future. Now imagine it getting into bed with the biggest corporations and agencies. So many unlives that could be improved, or even saved from the raids of First Light. I have the infrastructure. I have the Elders' support. All I need now is a mastermind at the center of it all. Hope. Yes, Hope. She looks down and takes in the scenery below for a while. Then she points at her t-shirt, the one piece of clothing that clashes with the rest of her outfit. You know, I'm a huge fan of punk. The leading idea of my company, Double Spiral, is to make everything I do a little bit punk. I'm all about clashing ideas. I'm all about disruption. You blink a few times in a quick succession. Oh god, you think to yourself, she's that kind of person. You saw a lot of them in your old life. Another establishment asshole co-opting everything anti-establishment, blasting Fugazi while ruining lives via Excel spreadsheets. You might have punched a boss cut from the same cloth once. How do you do, fellow employees? I, too, am a big fan of the punk, specifically the latest song that they've written. Very anti-establishment, if I do say so myself. You collect yourself and escape from memory lane. Kara started talking about hope, so you better listen. To me, hope is as punk as it gets. A free spirit, fiercely independent, an eternal contrarian at odds with everything and everyone, developing her talents just because she finds it joyful. But God, does this girl need guidance? Not putting her talents to better use, rotting away, posting inane bullshit all the time? What a waste. I have built an environment specifically to develop her talents and let her become indispensable to our society, but she rejects it because of some idiotic hang-ups. I don't expect you to change your mind about me just because I kept yapping and yapping. I just hope you'll keep my perspective in mind and serve as the voice of reason Hope really needs right now. Now that I've had my say, how about we put our girl back on? She taps her on her phone again. A quiet buzz reappears in your right ear. Let's keep it quiet for now. 5 extremely long seconds of radio silence. Investigate double spiral now. I'm here. Keep talking. Don't worry, she should have heard everything. I just wanted to spare you an annoying commentary track while I introduce myself. Excuse me for a second. One of Kara's guards approaches to show her something on his phone. Hope uses the distraction to get you up to speed with how things are on her side. Hate a Mary KKK beat. Yeah, for a second there I was about to rage that the hack has gotten the better of us, but hey, go figure. She just wanted to take a piss in my Cheerios. The plan worked. I have a lot of data from her monologue and some private sources, but the more we gather, the better. This display here says some more K letters could be useful. So, don't beat yourself up about it if you fail, but if you get her to repeat something with K in it, that might improve our deepfake voice. Looks like Kara's done talking to the guard. Sorry about that. Looks like I've got to attend a sudden meeting with a Google representative shortly. Oh god. Hope snorts. Not bragging, though. By the way, does anyone but Hope know about this little rendezvous? Your patron? Any other companion? Or maybe the Nosferatu? Let's bluff a little bit, because of course the Nosferatu know about everything. So what if it's the Nosferatu? Kara's face takes on a hard expression. When she starts talking, she takes great pains not to say too much. Word of advice, kid. Kaiser's not in this business to be kind to strangers. Kaiser's only got Kaiser's interests in mind and nothing else. He might not let it show, but he's always in a kill-or-be-killed mindset. If you are doing business with him, keep that in mind at all times. Well, finally some words of wisdom from one corporate shark about another. Hope lets out a quiet, triumphant howl. Well, the screen tells me it should be all the Ks we need. Good job. Kara decides to change the subject. Anyway, no offense, but since Hope's not here, I really have to rush. Honestly, I feel a little insulted that she set up this meeting and didn't even bother to show up. Insulted and suspicious, her tone of voice betrays her. She might have some good instincts. Too bad she didn't trust them here. Still, out of respect for Langley, I decided to have this talk with you, to explain you why I am an asset to the Camarilla, and to explain why the Elders need Hope by my side. What the worm-brained hack here forgot to mention is that the elders don't give a shit about me. Even if you don't see it my way now, I believe I've sown some seeds here that might sprout in the near future. Double Spiral looks out for people who look out for it is all I'm saying. But before I leave, you know, there's one thing I really wish I knew. Back when I knew her, she was a different person. Or different people, depending on how you look at it. Why does she fight against me so much? What's her motivation to resist so much? What's her motivation? Good question. She's never shared it with you. V. Answer whatever you want, but A. You better lie through your teeth. B. Get her to say V a few times if you can. It might improve a few shortcomings of our deepfake software. What's your answer? Survival. Gara snorts. Spare me. If she just wanted to keep pulling through, she'd have a much better chance by my side. Pride or spite would be a far more believable as an answer. Would have told me you either don't know or don't trust me. Survival. V times 2. Good attempt, at least. One of Kara's people erupts with a theatrical cough. Kara gestures at him to calm down. I really need to go now. See you around, Eric. She begins to walk down the stairs, surrounded by her guards. Once she's gone from before your eyes, Hope decides to summarize your mission. Tread Kath hot. For the love of Christ, wish you could have kept her droning on for a little longer. Turns out the T-letter could use some improvements as well. Not complaining though, you did good, and don't worry, the data I have should be more than enough to generate a convincing deepfake. I just need to put in some more work. So I guess I will get to that right now. Right away. Enjoy the rest of your night. Drop by my hardware at your haven when you get a chance. I'll let you know when you already hit Kara's base of operations. Pray for my success, sweetie, and I might be done soon. Maybe even tomorrow. And once we're done with her, we'll talk about how I can repay your generosity. Amen. The connection drops. It looks like that's all for now. You gaze at the sea of lights around you for the last time and then start making your way back to street level. Oh, looks like that took up the rest of our night. Well, yeah. Time to rest up. Kadir al-Asmai, the sheriff of New York City, is knocking at the door to your haven. What a start to the night. The sight comes as more than a little shocking. If he had business with you, he would either expect to see him already inside or never see him coming at all. Yet there he is, on the other side of the peephole, patiently and politely waiting for you to let him in. You carefully unlock the door and face him in silence. Evening. May I come in? You simply stare at him. Your lack of an answer does not faze him, and your lack of resistance as he starts walking inside has obviously been interpreted as a permission. Once inside, he starts looking around as you cautiously stay by the door. Haven't really had the time to make this place your own yet, have you? It feels like Langley's apartment through and through. A secluded study where nobody studies anything. Look at the books on the shelf, obviously meant to impress guests, not to be read. Yet they reveal nothing about their owner, aside from the aching desire to be taken seriously as an intellectual. He picks one of them up and smirks before putting it away. The phenomenology of spirit next to all this garbage poetry. We can make a bet. If she's read more than 20 pages, I owe you $50 and a gallon of blood. The kind of place that self-professed hermits entomb themselves in to suffer. Considering how much you have to run around these nights, you probably only use it to shelter from the sun and rest, right? Even though he's obviously making an effort to come off as non-threatening, it's impossible to forget the first impression he made. You still see him as a fierce predator, trying hard not to expose his true colors. You sense a familiar fight-or-flight response as you struggle to find a diplomatic answer to his last question. If Kadir is bothered by your silence, he does not let it show. He keeps walking around, toying with whatever catches his eye. Eventually, he speaks again. Watch any baseball lately? If I had to guess, you strike me as a Red Sox fan. Now he's inviting you to talk in a more direct manner. You attempt to overcome your physical reaction to him and reply as casually as you can. But the answers do not come. Your mind keeps going back to that night when everything was changed forever. Waking up in hell with a body next to you, spending a night in that underground sweatbox, unsure of what will happen next. That endless car ride, 3 strikes, a bloodthirsty crowd, that blade. Rebirth, a baptism by fire, a frightening executor who made sure the flames scarred your spirit. As you look into his face, you realize he's read the emotions from yours. Not in the mood to exchange pleasantries, hmm? There's no animosity in his voice. He's just stating a fact. Let me get straight to the point, then. He momentarily stops caring about his surroundings, turning all of his attention to you, and demanding the entirety of your attention in return. You see, there's something I've realized over the years. In large part, I may have been hired just to look menacing with a sword, but my job is all about seeing through bonds and relationships. The Camarilla would be safe as long as its members adhere to certain social contracts, making their dealings and affinities plain for everyone to see. But that obviously remains a pipe dream. This is a community of born conspirators, overly ambitious gangsters and politicians, monsters in denial, all sorts of tragically broken individuals. They're driven by desires that make them incompatible with a masquerade, incompatible with prolonged survival of the Camarilla, incompatible with the methods I use to operate. And so, I am doomed to be like a cop, constantly insulted behind my back, maybe for a good reason, but immediately called for help whenever someone loses their tableware. Or like an Agatha Christie protagonist, outwardly assisted by everyone, but constantly lied to about everyone's pasts and motivations, even if my failure to solve the mystery might be the end of us all. He tries to sound like he's peacefully resigned to his fate, but it's easy to detect a tinge of regret in his voice, a voice belonging to someone who once had bigger ambitions than this. What broke him? So you see, for this detective, the whodunit is far more important. The why-done-it is far more important than who-done-it or how-done-it. When you understand all the players and their mutual obligations, you easily understand every crime. There are monsters in the Nile? Strike Egypt off my bucket list. But of course the kindred know it, so they devise ways to make my job much harder, just like conspiracies between two unrelated actors that depend on scratching each other's backs for mutual security. Or they enforce a blood bond to make someone unexpected their thrall. A boss serving their employee, a rebel serving a tyrant, just because one is regularly being forced to drink another's blood. So, blood bond. A mystically enforced relationship between a vampire and another, mortal or kindred. Drinking the blood of a vampire directly from the vein 3 times creates an intense loyalty in the drinker, resembling infatuation or obsession. The bond loses its grip with time, but is reinforced by repeated drinks from the donor vampire. What has Sophie seen in you? Why does the prince keep asking me about your actions? How come you're being pushed to build your own coterie so fast? You're surrounded by unclear motivations which you yourself don't understand. That unnerves me, and it should unnerve you as well. Oh, and what are your motivations? Finally, you manage to raise your voice. Kadir notices the effort and smiles softly. So you haven't gone mute since the last time I saw you. Good. Well, I'm here for a selfish reason. I need to develop a rapport with you to better fulfill my obligations. The last time we met, I couldn't see you as my equal. Now that you've been accepted into the Camarilla, what choice do I have? I'd understand if you didn't want to see my face again, but I'm one of the faces of the New York City community, and as long as you're a part of it, it's going to be impossible to avoid me. Especially when I have business with you, and I do. As you might have guessed by now, one of my tasks is uncovering and understanding your bonds, and one of them might endanger our community. Oh, that's not menacing at all. What is he talking about? Sophie? Someone from my coterie? Kaiser? I'm gonna bet it's Kaiser. Is this about Kaiser? Kadir shakes his head. That leper is bad news if you ask me. But who does not trade information with him these days? No, they're not a major player. He produces a file from underneath his coat and passes it to you. This is our troublemaker. You open the file and see some printed photos. You freeze up as you recognize the face and are overwhelmed by a flood of repressed memories. Jessica Lowell. The woman who made the last few years of your life heaven and the last few weeks a living hell. Since she took pretty much everyone you knew with her after the split, you thought the transition to this life would be painless. No baggage at all. Have you thought wrong? You look up at Kadir, expecting answers. There are some unfortunate rumors that you committed suicide after a messy breakup. So apparently Miss Jessica here is desperately mobilizing everyone she knows to look for you. Turns out she's contacted a lot of people who might recognize you, including some in law enforcement agencies. The risk of endangering us is relatively low, but far from non-existent. Which means she must be stopped. Must be stopped sounds threatening. You dread thinking what she's planning. I'll arrange for you two to meet tomorrow so that you can straighten the situation out and say goodbye to the life you've forsaken. He'll arrange... what? Your eyes must look like saucers right now. Usually these matters are left to my discretion, and I can't think of an easier solution. The lost sheep reappears, takes care of unfinished business, and disappears, never to be seen again. Nobody cares. It's simple, it's clean, no contrived schemes, no unnecessary victims. And it gives me an opportunity to learn more about you as I observe. When neonates interact with kind they used to hold dear, their true natures are laid bare for everyone to see. Of course he's invested in being kind to you, or he's making clear his self-serving intentions so that you don't start figuring them out yourself. Any objections? Any alternatives are probably worse. You shake your head. Very well. I'll arrange a meeting and drive you there tomorrow. Better come up with a load of ball that's easy to swallow. He disappears from the apartment, leaving you as confused as the last time he closed the door on you. God damn it. You need to think this through. For a long time, you just sit in your haven, lost in your thoughts, remembering how once you thought your world had ended with her leaving. Whining, sure, but seems like it was prescient whining. One more visit. Actually, looks like our personal quest has returned. Well, another personal quest. Last time you failed to resolve the situation with your stalker. You have to get a handle on that one way or another. You're in your haven when the intercom rings. Answering cautiously, you hear an older male voice. Hello? I'm calling because a friend asked me to come by and offer you my services. Who's this friend? Better not talk about that on the intercom. Secrets are secrets. The man sounds strangely excited, breathing hard. I need something to go on. She told me not to talk about these things in public. I know you're one of them. Please, it's all right. I don't mind. You can drink with me, if you understand what I mean. A man you've never seen before is paying a visit to an apartment not many people know of, offering you to feed from him. Honestly, I'm getting creeped out. I'm so sorry. Don't worry, I mean no harm. Silence. A minute passes and you hear a knock on the door to your haven. You cautiously open the door. A stranger looks at you sheepishly. He's in his 30s, dressed in a clean business suit. He looks moderately successful, someone you could meet at an investment bank. I'm sorry, I didn't want to intrude, so that's why I called from downstairs. Sure, what's the worst that could happen? You know what, come in. I was hungry anyway. The man looks comically satisfied as you usher him into your haven. He barely waits for you to close the door before he loosens the collar of his shirt, closes his eyes, and bares his neck in quivering expectation. You look at the man, taken aback by such forwardness. Figuring that you didn't invite the man here for a chat, you lean closer, take him by the shoulders, and sink your fangs into him. Gay. This is not an unpleasant way to feed, you reflect as the blood flows into your mouth. The food comes to your door of its own volition. The man moans as you drink from him, lost at the ecstasy of the kiss. It feels a little unseemly, but it would be churlish to begrudge him his pleasures. Taking care not to drink too much, you let go of the man after licking his wounds closed. Suddenly you're startled by a surprising sight. A woman, not very old, strangely dressed, is looking at you intently, only an arm's length away. Before you can react, the mysterious woman opens your front door and vanishes from sight, leaving you to wonder whether you really saw her at all. As you stare confused, the man you drank from slips out of your haven and into the hallway, staggering a little from the effects of the kiss. You close your door, wondering what was that all about. At least you got to feed, if nothing else. Yeah. Oh, it is. We'll see where this leads. Knock, knock. You'd ask who's there, but you don't know if the sheriff of New York City would play along. When you open the door, you see him toying with the car keys he's holding in his hand. Ready to go, fledgling? You don't feel like it, but you give him a nod nevertheless. Excellent. Stay close. He leads you down to the vehicle he's parked nearby. Once again, he takes the wheel, literally and figuratively. Everything inside is just the way you remember it, down to the rear-view mirror reflecting the intense stare of your guide. However, the trip itself feels notably different. The last time Kadir drove you around, he was forcibly dragging you away from your old life. This time, he's pulling you back into it. All the things you wanted to say to Jessica keep running through your head. Let me tell you how it's going to go. As I said, I've arranged a meeting between you and your kin. It's going to take place somewhere you should know very well. I'll watch over you two from a safe distance to make sure you adhere to the rules. You should know those very well, but I'll reiterate just so you can't ever say I didn't warn you. Don't do anything that would violate the masquerade. Don't establish some secret routes of contact. I will know. Do treat it as the last time you two will meet. Take this chance to wrap everything up. Here's your story. You're fine, found yourself at a crossroads, decided to radically change your life and move out of the city. The subway is unbearable, the rent is too high, they've heard it all. You were ready to leave New York for good when you heard those absurd rumors about taking your own life. So you've decided to set the record straight. He gives you a knowing look. And close the curtains on your relationship once and for all, on your terms. The car makes a sudden turn. I'll leave the finer details to you. Just be so kind and don't make me regret it. You can sense he's going out of his way for you, but does not try to force you into gratitude by stating it plainly. If you know, you know. He'll see if you're worthy of his aid. We're here. You take a look around and recognize your destination. He was right. It is a familiar place. It's that club. The one you met your future sire in while trying to forget about Jess. This is where they last saw poor Eric. Who knows whatever might have happened to him? One Jessica Lowell is trying to figure it out, to find out. She got a tip from an anonymous source saying that you might appear here tonight. Wouldn't want to disappoint the lady, would you? She's apparently quite distraught. He turns off the engine and relaxes comfortably in his seat. You silently leave the car and head straight for the club. The last time you were headed this way, you still had a pulse. Feels almost nostalgic. There's a party getting started and some rookie DJs trying to read the crowd. You begin to look for Jess. You wonder what the first thing you say to her should be. Why did you let me die? You really took me for the suicidal type? Yeah, that should work. The music is pulsing and there are good vibes in the air. You spot a girl hurrying to the bathroom with a nosebleed. The smell is faint, but it gets you in the mood to have some fun. However, Kadir indicates that he's got a pair of eyes around here somewhere. Better stick to the plan. A stupid idea pops into your head. If you meet her and she says, "I want to be with you again," what would you do? No, we cannot do that. Outside of the rules of masquerade, I'm afraid. We can have one last good night before leaving. But no. That would also run a high risk of violating the masquerade, so time to say a solid goodbye. What's done is done. Best not to dwell on it. By now it feels like you've explored all the places Jess could have been. It's getting frustrating. You grab the cheapest drink they have from the bar. A tall blonde girl in a stylish skirt smiles at you from behind heart-shaped glasses. You smile back, but this is no time for the heart to guide the hand. You walk past her, back to your duty. You mimic taking a sip of your drink. God, you could have been having so much fun tonight. You could... accidentally stumble into Jessica when you least expect it. She looks at you as if she's seen a ghost. You freeze up, trying to come up with something to say and failing. The last few years of your life flash before your eyes. Wait. What was the line you decided to open the conversation with? Before you remember, a powerful slap takes you out of your stupor. You stupid motherfucker! Yes, she gets the first line. You realize you've spilled your drink all over your clothes. I've been so worried. I've been so fucking worried. Called everyone I knew to look for you. And you're just having fun clubbing? You thought it would be funny to drop all the contact with everyone? Pretend something happened to you? What, you wanted to see my reaction? She slaps you once again. You let some sort of dissociation set in and just watch the situation as it unfolds. I'll let everybody know you're okay, but don't you. Don't you ever show yourself in front of me again. She turns her back on you and disappears into the crowd, walking towards the exit. You look around. You notice the heart-shaped glasses girl chuckling in the distance. You're no longer in the mood to party. Guess you'll follow Jessica's lead and leave. Better not keep the sheriff waiting. Well, at the very least you can say this. She still cares. That's nice. Back to Kadir's car. Once you close the door, he instantly puts his foot on the gas pedal. Walking off the pitch with no regrets? Is that everything you had to say? You speak up without thinking. Yeah, she said she'll call off the search. Getting her to accept that it was over took some harsh words, but deep down I think she knew it was time to say farewell once and for all. She's a little shaken up, but she'll live. You spot a playful spark in Kadir's eyes. You took care of it like a man, did you? Very good. The people we knew in life have this tendency to briefly reappear in our unlives. One night, let's say 20 years from now, she might spot you on the street. You won't have aged a day from now, and even though she'll tell herself that can't be you, she'll be jealous. And if you look happy, she will feel regret over what could have been. So for the sake of the night your paths cross once again, I hope you'll search for your own happiness. The car speeds up to cross an intersection before the light turns red. You give Kadir a good hard look. Thanks. It does not feel like a, how do you call it, very vampire thing to say, but you say it nonetheless. He's visibly taken aback and his usually furrowed brow smooths out for a moment. Gotta hit him with that bit of honesty once in a while. Then he takes on a serious, slightly sorrowful expression. Don't suck up to me, kid. Mr. Bad Guy is still here, and without a doubt he will go back to decapitating suckers like you any time now. The car starts slowing down. We're here. You look out the window and see your haven. Take care. I'll see you around. Just pray I don't have to see you too often. You leave the car and start walking to your haven, thinking about Kadir. Can't say you're fond of him, but what with the welcome he gave you and all, but after tonight you can't say you aren't either. He is just a guy forced into making some tough decisions. And he never likes it, and he doesn't have to like it anytime. Yet he still does them. Hard man, hard job, as they say. You're gonna need some more time to understand him, that's for sure. Let's pay Benoit a visit. You've started to look at churches differently since your last encounter with Benoit. You're not sure what happened inside, but it was unavoidably real. You felt it. When Benoit mentioned that being in the presence of Father Anthony's faith would eventually kill someone like you, an undead being, you believed him. It does not seem to be very common, though. In New York, you pass thousands of people every night, and none of them have made you feel so afraid and insignificant. If you were to encounter someone like Father Anthony in the subway or a nightclub, you would know. There are many churches in the 5 boroughs, and you're pretty sure most of them don't contain someone whose faith can touch you in this way. Yet, you've become wary. They just might. Still, tonight the cathedral looks as before. a striking landmark acting as a symbol of faith for people who have no idea that vampires exist in their midst. For them, questions of faith and myth are theoretical or philosophical. For you, those same questions suddenly define the meaning of your new existence. You sneak into the cathedral like an old hand, as if going to church had been a regular part of your life. Inside, the cathedral is almost deserted. You're not sure if you'll be meeting Benoit alone. The idea of feeling Father Anthony's faith on your undead flesh freezes you with terror. Benoit is waiting for you in the front pews of the cathedral with the exact same spot where you saw Father Anthony. Worried, you approach, but you don't feel the touch of faith that shook you before. Benoit nods as you sit next to him in the pew. I don't like this, Benoit. I guess a lot of kindred are worried about what we really are. You can walk away. Many of our kind choose to live in ignorance of what it really means to be damned. You've had some time to think. I'm guessing you found the touch of Father Anthony's faith hard to ignore. For most people, God's presence is a question of faith. When I talk with Father Anthony, it feels like proof. Benoit is fervent, intense as he speaks. It's clear these questions have consumed his existence. Perhaps they'll consume yours, too. What do the kindred of the Camarilla believe? The old ones. It's true the elders are not always so good at teaching their childer. Maybe the Camarilla would function better if we all knew these stories. Benoit looks around reflexively to make sure nobody's listening. There are only a few people in the enormous cathedral, and they don't seem to be interested in two loners murmuring to each other in the front pew. It might seem like ancient history, things that happened thousands of years ago, but time works differently for our kind. In the stories, if the stories are true, there are Methuselahs still in existence who walked the earth when Jesus was alive. Methuselah, a vampire who has existed for a millennium or more, an elder who no longer participates in kindred society. Methuselahs are rumored to hail from the 4th and 5th generations. And we are about 12th or 13th. Then again, 13th sees an increased rate in thin bloods. So maybe 12. The only problem is that all vampires lie. They adjust history to suit their egos. Not even boomers. Shoomers. Surely something was written down before the masquerade was established? Of course. The Tremere have many interesting manuscripts in their libraries. I've seen a few. If you have the chance, I recommend looking at them. This is how the story goes. God cursed Cain as punishment for the murder of Abel. Cain walked the night shunned by humanity and drank blood to sustain himself. Even from the point of our origin, we are damned. However, the story becomes really interesting when we move forward. Cain creates more of our kind, often referred to as the second generation. Generation, the number of steps between a vampire and the mythical Cain. How far distant from the first a given vampire is. Low generation provides great power, just as it does a stronger curse and hunger. And this is why the Dark Ages supplement exists. For vampire, werewolf, and mage. They lived in the first city, later called Enoch, ruling openly over the city's human inhabitants. I see the first city as Cain's redemption. Cursed by God to wander, he remade himself as a ruler and lawgiver, acting as an immortal shepherd to humanity. It only started to go wrong when the second generation begat the third and vampires started to run amok. What happened to the first city? It was lost in the deluge. Noah had his ark to save him, but our kind had to rely on our gifts of blood. If you're skeptical about this piece of history, remember that even a local flood can bring massive destruction. He is correct. After the first city, Cain largely departs the story. Perhaps he was disheartened by the depredations of his descendants. The antediluvians went on to build a second city in imitation of the first, but it's doubtful their rule was just. Antediluvians. The progenitors. Members of the dreaded third generation, and the founders of the 13 vampire clans. There are people moving in the cathedral, and both of you and Benoit have made sure none get close enough to hear you talk. Many of the people you've seen have been elderly or disabled, so it's not surprising that you hear the squeak of a wheelchair. What alarms you is more that you overhear an older woman speaking with a Russian accent mention Father Anthony. Let's find Father Anthony and see if he can help us. From what I've heard, he is an exceptional man. You turn to look and see two men and a woman. All three are in their 50s, clearly well worn by life. One of the men pushes the woman in a wheelchair. She is dark-haired and intense, seemingly only half in this world. Yeah, exceptional, but he does not like moles. The speaker is shorter of the men, more animated and worried. He was probably a strong man in his youth, perhaps even an athlete. His voice carries a Midwestern accent. We are only interested in whether he likes blank bodies. You and Benoit look at each other. This is bad news. Whoever these three are, they can't be good for you. We need to get out. Let's meet outside. Better not call attention to yourself. You decide to move to the side of the cathedral and pretend to pray at an altar. You walk casually towards the side, away from the three approaching mortals. You feel their eyes boring into your back, but you force yourself to be cool. Benoit is nowhere to be seen. You blinked and he disappeared in a burst of speed. You're worried if it was too conspicuous, but maybe the mortals missed it. You pretend to admire the architecture for a while before glancing back at the trio. They have settled at the exact spot you just occupied, apparently waiting for something and conversing in hushed tones. Once you're sure their attention is elsewhere, you start walking briskly down the side aisle toward the exit. That was a close call. Who are those three? Did you recognize them? I might have. I'm not sure. There's talk of a few tenacious vampire hunters living in the city. One of them supposed to be a woman in a wheelchair. For a second, Benoit looks at you as if he was wondering whether he should say something. There's one thing I've always wondered about the story of Cain. The traditions of the Camarilla put a lot of faith in the relationship between sire and child. You're supposed to follow the example of your maker, yet Cain doesn't really seem to care for the vampires he embraced. Did he think it was a mistake to create our kind? My sire left me. Is that common among the kindred? Yes, unfortunately. The kindred are selfish and cruel. What can I say besides fatherless and/or motherless behavior? You know, I'm Sophie's child and you're her protégé. It's amazing that we share an appreciation for the mythologies of our kind, considering Sophie has little interest in questions of the spirit. You stare at Benoit. You knew there was something he wasn't telling you, but in all the talk about Cain in the first city, you forgot about it. Now the only question is, what does this mean? Does Sophie know her child is talking to you? Probably not. Don't hold it against me, but I admit finding some pleasure in seeing you suffer the effects of Father Anthony's faith. I suppose that's the demon in me. I understand that you're bitter, Benoit. I'm not your enemy. I'm sorry, I know that. It's just that sometimes I get too tempted by sin. You know, we should meet again. We've talked so much about myth, but maybe that's cowardly when the reality of faith is right in front of us. I'll introduce you to Father Anthony. You nod, unsure whether that's a good idea. Benoit walks away and you follow his example, not wanting to hang around the cathedral any longer. No. You are done for the night. Rest up. Oh, no visits at the start of the night, so we get 2. How about going back to D'Angelo? Knowing there are only so many places with a good enough view of the Manhattan Bridge, you decide to check the ones that aren't likely to be crowded at this time of night. It does not take long before you hit the jackpot, Jane's Carousel. As you're walking along the pier, you notice a lonely figure sitting on the bench, steel flask in hand, his legs up on the railing. Soon enough, you hear a familiar voice. Evening turned to night, and as the final flickering rays of sunlight gave way to the kind nocturnal shadows, so did the last of the jabbering tourists give way to a blessed silence. And yet I couldn't shake the feeling. Pausing mid-sentence, he leans back over the bench, backrest, and looks straight at you. Upside down, his face looks even creepier than usual. I wasn't alone. I have to ask, what's it with you and narrating? Takes the edge off. I know that feeling. All too well. Just like this. He takes a sip, then points the flask in your general direction. Fancy a sip? Sure. Sure, why not? You take the flask and take a swig. It's blood all right, mixed with other frivolous substances, some of which you recognize, while others you probably don't want to know. That's the spirit. Now that you're good and soused, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. There's been another one. Killing, I mean. Down by the docks. Same MO? The blood, the graffiti? Yep, it was our gal, alright. Victim sucked dry, same as before. Another sign on the wall. Something about impending doom, and oh lord, he coming. The particulars escape me. You know, that night I saw her, she looked so frail, so innocent. Deep inside, I was hoping she'd be spooked, get out of town. That maybe, just maybe, that would be the end of it. But that's me, you know, hopelessly optimistic. Okay, so what's the plan? Plan is... He stops mid-sentence, taking a swig of liquid courage. We stop her, at any cost. I'd rather not involve killing the girl, but I'm starting to think that ship has already sailed. Another swig. You're not sure how much of this is genuine and how much is an act, but still, he's starting to worry you a bit. So anyway, I've set up a meeting. Neutral ground, public space, shouldn't get too ugly. Still, I was hoping you could tag along. Is it Larson again? Nah, let's leave the poor schmuck alone for now. It's pretty clear he's just as clueless as we are. He looks away and pats the bench next to where he's sitting. You might want to sit for this one. Unless you want me to introduce me to your parents, I can probably handle it. Come on, who it is? Who is it? Valerie. Valerie? As in murderous bitch Valerie? Likes to choke people out of for the fuck of it, Valerie? That Valerie. You ever notice that if you repeat a word enough times, it just starts to sound like animal noises? But yeah, that Valerie. I know you two didn't exactly hit it off, but she's not as bad as you might think. I mean, in some respects, she's probably worse, but she can be reasoned with. Once again, he goes for the flask, but stops himself mid-motion. Look, the way I see it, we ain't got a choice. As much as I want to help Sana, she's clearly a few bats short of a belfry. More people are gonna die unless we do something about it. Do you really think we can trust someone like Valerie? D'Angelo almost does a spit take. Fuck no. Or we can do business with her. I'm just worried that her asking price might be too steep for my liking. But then again, you don't always get what you want, huh? Noticeably proud of his words of wisdom, he tries to top them off with one last swig. A single drop falls between his crooked teeth. He looks at the empty flask with the utmost contempt. Well, ain't that fucking poignant. Muttering a curse under his breath, he makes a valiant effort to get up off the bench. As he staggers, struggling to remain upright, you offer your shoulder to lean on. He shoots you a smile that's as crooked as it is affectionate. Hey, kid. You meet his gaze, trying to look friendly rather than condescending. You're all right. And with that heartfelt moment, you bid adieu to the sprawling vista and make your way towards the bridge. Next stop, Manhattan. Entering the park from Midtown Manhattan, you promptly take a spot by one of the alleys, not very deep into the park. Minutes pass, 5, 10, 15. You start to wonder if she's ever even gonna show up. Wouldn't surprise me if there are werewolves somewhere in central Manhattan Park. Maybe glasswalkers, maybe bone gnawers, who knows. Still, best not to push our luck. Suddenly you hear a familiar voice, but with an unfamiliar tone. She sounds almost nice. Hello, Ginny. And there she is, walking along the side of the fountain. She looks less out of place here than back at that junkie-infested hovel, but only by a slight margin. Something tells you there are only so many places she would feel at home, and probably not the ones you would want to find yourself in. Well, she glances over at you, barely noting your presence. Sorry about last time. Nothing personal, you understand. When I get caught up in the moment, I can get a bit intense. I can attest to that. Play nice, you two. We have some business to discuss. All work and no play, huh? Why not? She turns to D'Angelo and flutters her eyelashes. You can tell she does not see you as her equal, but this come-hither routine is getting kind of unnerving. Lay it on me, sugar. We have a mutually beneficial proposition. Does the pup speak for you, Ginny? 'Cause I'm getting a weird sorcerer's apprentice vibe right now. Give the kid a break, Val. We're here about Sana, the thin blood you're after. The girl's a threat. We need to find her. Figured we can do it faster if we work together. Uh-huh. Keep going, honey, 'cause I have a feeling there's a catch coming. The catch is... Awkward silence. It's not often you see him at a loss for words. Seeing him struggle, you decide to jump in. We want the girl to stay alive. See, now that's a deal breaker right there, sugar. If you want me to even consider it, you'll have to sweeten the pot. Once again, she turns to D'Angelo. And I bet tall, dark, and handsome over here might have some ideas. Okay, now I really don't like where this is going. Don't get too excited, kid. She wants a high-profile target, to show off to the prince what a good little scourge she is. That all you care about nowadays, huh? Playing the game, climbing the ranks? A smile creeps onto her lips. You can tell it's forced. D'Angelo definitely knows how to get under her skin. That's my Ginny. A big old brain and a heart to match. Once again, she turns to you. I knew right away he'd try to help this girl. He does love him a damsel in distress. But you... I'm still not sure what your angle is. I mean... What is our angle, actually? What do you care is a non-answer, obviously. But if I want to be on good terms with D'Angelo, I am leaning towards... It's the right thing to do. However silly that sounds. And I'm personally leaning towards that answer. I don't have an angle. It just seems like the right thing to do. Oh, wow. Seriously? Ginny, you got yourself a live one. Good for you. So there, you know my terms. Contact me when you've made up your mind. Don't take too long, though. I'm a lucky girl. I might just find you little thin blood on my own. Still, I hope we can work together. We did make a good team back in the day, didn't we? Slowly, seductively, she puts her arms around his shoulders. She glances over to you, clearly enjoying how awkward it makes you feel. We are honest after all, painfully so. It's the only thing we can do as a fledgling. Once this meeting is over, you'll have some explaining to do. You hear that, Ginny? You're in some hot water now. Anyway, withdrawing from the strange half-embrace, she flicks D'Angelo's nose gently with her index finger. Almost instantly, she turns from flirtatious to dispassionate. However this plays out, I have a feeling we'll meet again sooner than later. Until then, without sparing you another glance, she disappears down an unlit park alley. D'Angelo watches her go. The look on his face, a mixture of longing and guilt, is borderline comical. Finally, he turns back towards you, as if breaking some spell he was under. Well, that could have gone a lot worse. What do you mean by a higher profile target? It's not what, it's whom. She wants me to give her Larson. Wait, what does Larson have to do with any of this? It doesn't. Not directly. It's just that he might have some less than admirable chapters in his biography, but it's in some pretty egregious shit. And Valerie knows a certain handsome someone might have evidence of said shit, which would allow her to bring him down. And bringing down a primogen, even one as lame as Larson, is a pretty big deal. He squints, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Fuck it. I'm heading back to the office. Need to put my feet up, get some blood flow into the old noggin. You coming? You nod. Why the hell not? And so you make your way towards Fifth Avenue. You've got a long way ahead of you and a lot of stuff to figure out. Although it's not your first visit, you still find it hard to navigate the dark, rust-hidden corners of the grain terminal. Luckily, this time you're with someone who could probably do this blindfolded, so you just follow his lead. As you're both climbing the rickety stairs leading to the mezzanine, you suddenly notice light coming from D'Angelo's office. A quick look assures you that no, he did not in fact leave it on. You bust through the door like undead Tango and Hooch, or was that Turner and Cash, ready to unleash unholy fury on the intruders. You half expect an Anarch death squad or an SI hunting party. Nice references there. Instead, you get Larson, who nearly falls out of the chair when you two bust in. Well, look who it is. Missed us already? Hardly. Seemingly both intrigued and irritated by the surprise visit, D'Angelo walks over to a cabinet and pulls out a fresh cigar. And may I ask what brings you, O venerable primogen, to my humble abode? Her. He points at a tiny shadow cowering in the corner of the room. To your astonishment, it turns out to be a very familiar face. The blood. No, not again. Please. Did she tell you anything? She just keeps babbling about blood and signs and all this nonsense. She came to my house, probably figured out who I was, thought I could help. But honestly, I have no idea what to do with her. I mean, I should turn her into the prince, but that's just another strike against my people. Then again, I can't just set her loose. Not after what she did. Fuck, D'Angelo, you can tell me, you can tell that I'm desperate and my first instinct was to come to you. No, Larson, I would attribute that decision to what's left of your common sense. He leans over to you. Hey kid, I think we should call it a night. Just give me some time to talk to the girl. Maybe I'll get through to her somehow. The sign. It's always there. No, I ain't holding my breath. Honestly, you're glad to leave him to it. Spending the night in a small room with a tiny serial killer somehow does not seem too appealing. Still, you're hoping D'Angelo will be alright. He's got some tough choices ahead of him. I'm sure he'll be able to make something of it. As to our next visit. Maybe it's finally time to deal with a nosy reporter. The streetlights filter into the apartment in a stark white glow, as if someone were shooting a movie outside. The art pieces display a tasteful expense entirely fitting the image you have of Sophie. It feels as if 1,000 sins have been committed on these premises, most of them under her benevolent hospitality. Sophie comes to greet you as you enter the living room, shaking her head. You understand that people judge me based on how you dress, don't you? Sophie looks at your clothes and as if resigned to your sartorial limitations. I've tried to dress inconspicuously because of the masquerade. That's very sensible of you. I suppose I should commend you for that. Sophie walks to the window and looks out, the streetlights playing on her features. She reminds you of a queen contemplating the unfortunate limitations of her subjects. You'd think that as a vampire, at least we wouldn't have to worry about the vultures of the press. Unfortunately, when you have power and ability, there are always parasites trying to feed on you. I used to have a journalist friend. Then you know what they're like. Sophie steps away from the window and settles down on a sofa, a wine glass with red liquid in it. Blood, treated as not to spoil. You've become good at noticing the scent, even from a distance. She doesn't offer you any as you cautiously sit down across from her. This awful man has been stalking my apartment with a camera. He has gone through my trash, talked to the neighbors. Please be a dear and explain to him that there is nothing for him here. Is this about the masquerade? That's a big deal for us, right? Indeed, you're learning. This must happen often. How do you usually deal with it? Everyone has their own way. Sometimes the problem goes away with a bit of money or sharp words. Other times you need something more. Well, let's be a little bit needy. Do I get something out of this, or am I just your servant? You get to enjoy my protection. Ah, a classic retort. Time for you to go. I have business to attend to. You leave the apartment as Sophie disappears into another room. You don't have a clear idea of the games she plays with the city's mortal and immortal power structures, but she always seems to be making a move. Outside in the street, there is a slight warm drizzle, the kind that gets under your clothes and makes you want to take a shower when you get back to your own haven. No reporters immediately jump out to you. You start with the basics of investigative work. You ask the proprietor of the bodega about the corner, the homeless man sleeping in a nearby doorway, and the doorman of another building whether they've seen anyone strange. Detective work produces results. You get the description of a man who sounds like a reporter. Older, overweight, pasty, and with a bad physical condition. Professional camera. Once you know what you're looking for, it's not difficult. You spot a man who matches the description and follow him. You enter an alley, a dark, dingy space between two tall buildings. Once upon a time, a place like this might have worried you, made you think of muggings and violence. Now it's clear that the most dangerous thing here is you. The man you are following seems to realize this too. He holds his camera in front of him like a shield, its heavy objective resting on his paunch. With a start, you recognize him. You remember the face, the shaded sunglasses from a picture next to a byline in some trashy paper you were reading to kill time. Something about celebrities, scandal, sex. His name is Frank Doherty. You saw him on the street one time with a camera outside a nightclub. Probably waiting for someone important to come out so he could take their picture. Hey, don't go around scaring people like that. Wow, you're Frank Doherty. I'm a huge fan. Love your work. Thank you. It's nice to have one's work appreciated. What are you reporting on? I'm not sure it can help me. Well, perhaps you can. Do you live here? I'm working for a story about a local resident. Her name is Sophie Langley. Everybody knows her in high society circles. She's a redhead, pretty as a picture. And there were a lot of pictures of her through the years. That's the thing, in fact. Look at this. Frank pulls out his phone and starts showing you pictures. Some have been downloaded from news sites, while others are photos from the society pages of newspapers from last decades. All show Sophie. She has different clothes, hairstyles, makeup, names, but the face remains the same. Yeah, he does look like Movie Bob. Maybe with less of a chiseled face. That's strange. So what do you think is going on? Beats me. That's what I'm here to find out. You're Frank Doherty, the legendary reporter, so this must be important. Frank is visibly delighted by your words, no matter how insincere they were. As a reporter, you never know where the story will take you. 3 words. Extreme plastic surgery. All the celebrities do it. Only her doctor is better than the rest. You look critically at the photos on Frank's phone. Sure, I guess. If you find who the surgeon is, let me know. I could have some work done. You're right. It makes no sense. Damn. So how would you explain it? Have you considered the possibility that those pictures are a hoax? Sure, anything can be a hoax, but I dug up those old papers from the archives myself. I got to have something usable. Time to bust out the old... reliable. Frank, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to give you something you can work with. Take it. Frank is clearly taken aback by the change in your tone, but he's a gossip reporter. He's used to people trying to push him. Look, I'm a reporter. You can bluster, but you can't hide the truth. You know you've made enemies. I'm talking about people much worse than Sophie Langley. There's no need for that kind of talk. Suddenly Frank seems serious. He knows he has many enemies and few friends. It's your choice. I'm not your enemy. Desist, and there won't be any trouble. Frank is taken aback by the brutality of your tone. He has been intimidated by many times before, but he also knows that sometimes the threats are real. This time, he senses you're not kidding. He's just an aging man trying to salvage a career. You win. I hope you and Sophie Langley have a happy life. Deflated and hunched over, Frank trudges away from the alley. You stare at his receding figure. It's hard not to feel sorry for him. In Sophie Langley, he took on something way too powerful for a small fish like himself. Well, that takes care of it. You come back to your haven after a long night out. Right before you open the door, you notice something strange. The sounds of television are coming from your apartment. Madmen, if you're not mistaken. You open the door and carefully peek in. A young, disheveled woman is curled up on your sofa. She has a blanket pulled on top of her and seems very uncomfortable. Next to her lies an obviously unconscious, preppy woman. Oh, you're home. The woman reaches for the remote and puts Mad Men on pause. You weren't home, so I started without you. You know, Netflix and chill. Join me. There's space on the sofa. I brought us a snack. You enjoyed it the last time. The woman points lazily to the unconscious girl. Oh, I forgot. My name is Adelaide. Adelaide Davis. I like you a lot. Help yourself and settle in. Well, Netflix and chill, I guess. We can talk things out over a snack. Adelaide makes space on the sofa as you sit down between her and the unconscious mortal. You lean to drink from the girl as Adelaide uses the remote to turn Mad Men back on. The girl moans sleepily as you drink from her but does not wake. Her blood tastes pleasant and unhurried, a far cry from the adrenaline of blood you get by hunting a victim who knows you're coming. As you lick the girl's wounds closed and sit back on the sofa, Adelaide lies down and rests her head in your lap. Isn't this nice? I've missed this. We can pretend to be human, for a while at least. We watch the show together, taking small sips from the human every now and then. You didn't know vampires could spend time like this. The door to your apartment opens. Your mind is elsewhere and you react slowly. Sophie strides into your living room. She has a key to your haven and never bothers to knock, of course. You're checking up with Adelaide Davis, the scourge of Snug Harbor in the flesh. This is a new loaf for you, fledgling. I am embarrassed for you, really. Perhaps I should not be surprised. It's not what it looks like. It looks like you're cuddling with trash. Adelaide leaves the room, making sure to give as wide a berth to Sophie as possible. Sophie waits for the door of the apartment to close before she speaks. The Clan of the Moon. Did I not advise caution when dealing with them? As you watch, Sophie makes a phone call. 10 minutes later, two of her servants arrive to remove the unconscious girl sprawled on your sofa. You clearly need my help. It won't happen tonight, but let me see if I can resolve your stalker problem for real. You're left to wonder what Sophie meant by this, that as she leaves your haven. Well. Also, look who's back. You've taken care of Frank Doherty, but apparently there's someone still staking out Sophie's apartment. He's not that stupid, is he? Or, you've had enough of Adelaide Davis. It's time to head for Elysium and confront her with Sophie by your side. But first of all, Double Spiral. You and Hope set out to destroy Kara Montgomery's company from the within. I won't say we got too thirsty, more like too careless. Hope's poorly scribbled message reaches you in your haven. Within an unmarked envelope, you find the barely legible address you're supposed to reach and the hour you're expected to arrive there. This is it then. The night of the final showdown. You check the clock. There's way more than enough time to comfortably reach your destination, but you decide to take a drive earlier, just in case. The ride is uneventful, but becomes more and more tense as it goes on. The gravity of the situation starts getting to you. You're about to set out on an operation against a key NYC figure, well connected with both human and vampire leads. What if her security overwhelms you? How will the council react to your raid? You can only trust that Hope has thought it all through. He does not seem like the type who'd attempt a suicidal mission. Which isn't something you typically say about a person who regularly inflicts violence on herself in front of the camera. When you arrive at your destination, you find yourself in front of a building with a double spiral logo on it. This must be Montgomery's headquarters then. You look around the street and notice an obnoxiously lavender Mazda car parked nearby. Even though you've never seen it before, you might have an idea who it belongs to. You park your own car at a distance from the double spiral building and approach the Mazda. A familiar figure is behind the wheel, holding a smartphone in her hand. You knock on the window. She opens the window without turning her eyes from the device. Romance Apocalypse. Wow, you're early. Didn't think I'd find you right in front of the building. Don't care much for being inconspicuous? Why should I be inconspicuous? I'm not planning to come back alive. She lets a dead silence linger in the air for 10 seconds. Then she stops typing, diverts her eyes from the screen, gives you a melancholic stare, and winks. Please say psych. Psych. God damn it. Come on, what's with that face? I suffer from too much FOMO to let myself die. I've got accounts to run, notifications to check. Plus, no way in hell I'd allow Montgomery to the satisfaction of a draw. We're going there to secure a flawless victory. No time to wait, let's go. She gets out of the car and motions you to walk with her. Anywho, glad you managed to make sense of my ugly scribbles. I totally forgot how exhausted it is to write stuff by hand. Still not as exhausted as having to deliver messages personally to someone's door. Next time you meet Langley, ask her to give you a flip phone or something, okay? You reach the front of the building. We're about to burn this shithole down to the ground. Hope, I wouldn't mind if you let me in on your plan this time. Death to Double Spiral. Oh, Eric, baby, one would think that by now you'd know I'm a need-to-know basis kind of gal. But luckily, there's not much of a plan to talk about. You've done all but the hard work during your meeting with Kara. You see, our job is easy. We need to get in, destroy the server containing all of the Double Spiral research, and walk out. No spectacle, no dramatic showdowns. Why is she so perfect? That's a good question. Now, I know exactly what you're going to say. But wait, Hope. If this data is so priceless, shouldn't she have external backups? Is Kara a complete dunce? Excellent question, my neonate friend. The answer is yes, she's a dunce. But aside from her numerous negative qualities, she also has a positive one. She's totally paranoid. She used to be a naive dumbass who wouldn't even cover up her laptop camera, but she lost trust in all external companies after a little cyber espionage incident. She's obsessed with not uploading her precious data anywhere online. Now she only has one physical backup hidden deeper inside the headquarters. Nobody has an idea of where it might be, but I do. Normally, I'd never be able to reach the place. Double Spiral is like an underground base. The walls and doors are reinforced, both against the living and the dead. But the answer to this problem is simple. We only need Kara to lend us her voice so that we can override all the security measures and get her to the heart of the facility. What do you say, Kara? Will you help your girl out for the old time's sake? Hope quickly writes something down on her phone. A few seconds later, a nearly perfect imitation of Kara Montgomery's voice escapes her speaker. You know it. Let's bust this bitch open. Wow, the sound quality is incredible and the voice sounds only the tiniest bit off. Whatever she paid for that tech, it was worth it. Oh, and if you're afraid of consequences from the Camarilla, don't be. I'm assuming full responsibility and my ass is covered. I've got some favors to collect and to offer. Besides, Kara's a goddamn snake and everybody knows it. No important player will miss her influence. They were only tolerating her in case she hit it big with her tech. It's all about cash in abundance. Life's a bitch and then you die. Some parts sound a tiny bit too robotic. Could there be a pattern here? Too bad she won't ever get the chance to succeed. So without further ado, shall we? Hope starts marching toward the revolving door. You close your eyes and make an effort to sharpen your senses and follow the Malkavian into the lobby of the double spiral building. There is a sole security guard at the entrance. He raises his voice to ask about your business, but is stopped short by Hope's commanding voice. Manipulative snake. No need. We're expected. The man looks lost and disoriented for a moment. Then the gears in his head slowly begin to turn and he nods in his head, silently opening a gate leading to the elevators. Hope heads into one of them and you follow. She presses a button and the car starts heading to the lowest floor. Eventually, the doors open. Dungeon Master Guide PDF. Welcome to Kara Montgomery's Deadly Dungeons, Eric. What appear before your eyes are the dimly lit corridors of an IT office, empty and silent. The air is stiff and dusty, and there is a sharp, rotten stench in the air that you are unable to identify. The menacing atmosphere makes it hard to recognize at first, but this looks like an active workplace. It really is a dungeon, although a corporate one, where people are cheated of life. You feel a pang of anger. This is the real face of class warfare. These are the conditions people in power would offer us if they didn't feel a need to keep up appearances. Ah, there's the Bruja lineage rearing its head. Right control, girl. Let's just get to the first door and test my little Kara out. You follow her until you reach the end of the corridor. There you encounter an expensive-looking reinforced door with voice controls on the side. Hope pushes a button. A robotic voice comes out of the speaker. Semiotics. Seriously? Come on. Hope types the word into her phone and lets virtual Kara repeat the password. Semiotics. A sound rings out reminiscent of the cues that TV quiz shows used to let the contestant know he gave a wrong answer. Verification error. Please try again. You give Hope a nervous look. She bites her lip and presses the button again. Hyperreal. Tap, 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 tap. Hyperreal. Access granted. The doors slowly open. You notice your companion is wearing a sour expression. Looks like the tech isn't quite perfect. At least the passwords seem randomized so we can try and brute force our way in. Unless the system locks us out after a few failed attempts. She shakes her head and turns to you, her lips attempting to approximate a sincere smile. Captain ACAB. Well, we can only hope that the data you've collected is enough. Into the beast's maw we go. She marches into the room, and you walk in right after her. The door is locked behind you with a loud thud. It's a wide-open office. It would be as murky as the corridor you just left if it wasn't for rows of monitors illuminating the space. A shadowy figure stares at every screen in the room. Kara's voice plays from Hope's speaker. Behold, this is where magic happens. A family of driven folks hungry for success, always arcing the bull by the horns, building a high-performance culture. Together. None of the figures raise their heads. They're too busy programming, organizing spreadsheets, and typing in endless strings of text. What's wrong with these guys? Get up, startup? Don't worry, they're likely just a bunch of ghouls and whatnot. Hard-working, conditioned, tireless, low-maintenance, kinda dumb, perfect workers. Probably won't leave their seats unless we make them, but let's not. We've got more important things to do, like destroying a few years' worth of their work. The figures don't stop pounding away at their keyboards. In fact, they don't react to her words at all. Alrighty, so do we go straight to the server room, or do you want to check one of the side rooms first? Your call. I'd prefer to wrap things up here as fast as possible, but hey, Lelcara is here with us thanks to the data you've gathered. You betcha. If you think you can use her voice for something useful, hey, feel free to do it. You look around and think on how to respond. Well, I cannot not pick this option. Actually, let's try this door. You approach a door with a huge sign saying staff only. Next to you, you spot familiar voice controls. Hope nods at you and pushes the button. Vaudeville. Hope taps the screen on her phone a few times and puts the speaker next to the door's microphone. Vaudeville. Verification error. Access denied. You push the button again. Vaudeville. Card Raptor Socialist. Looks like this one doesn't have a randomizer built in. Won't do us any good to just keep trying. The capital wins once again. Let's move on, comrade. For a second you wonder if there's anything you could have done to succeed here. Then you shrug your shoulders and follow Hope out of the room. Well, there's our choices catching up with us. Another depressing corridor reeking of who knows what. You expect Hope to walk to the very end again, but this time she stops halfway and starts mumbling under her breath. Joy Sparkler. Wait, was it this door or... Don't tell me she moved things around. It looks like she's been here before. Not a surprise in itself, but she gives off an impression of a person who used to know the entire layout of the building very well. After brief reflection, Hope approaches a door to a few feet away and pushes the button next to it. Apocalypse. Well, that's cheery. Apocalypse. Access granted. You walk inside. At first glance, this office looks very similar to the last one you entered. Rows of screens and rows of listless silhouettes in front of them. However, Hope quickly spots a difference. QAZ 28348539302122. Target confirmed. Moving to data room. There's a room with endless machines at the back of the open space. Hope walks in, takes out some hardware out of the bag she's carrying, and begins the process of removing the data. Should have invested in SSDs, sis. Time to bust out my portable degosser. She turns to you. This will take a good minute. I've got a few other tricks up my sleeve. If you find it something that interests you, let me know. Should you wait near her, or take a look around? Of course we're gonna look around. I will take a look around. Might find something interesting. Tradcath thought. Have fun. Dear God in heaven, I know I will. You start walking around. For a while you notice nothing but errors that start popping up on the screens here and there. The ghouls try to fight against them, but quickly realize it's futile and surrender. Eventually you find a door with voice controls. You call out to Hope. She pauses her work for a second and approaches you. Opening hours? This door, huh? Alright, let's give it a shot. You press the button. Canoe and kayak. You watch over Hope's shoulder as she types the password with an incredible speed into a homemade-looking app. Then Kara's voice sounds out. Canoe and kayak. Access granted. Alright, you know where to find me. She gets back to her data as you start exploring. Well, not that there's much to explore, it's more like a closet. Inside you find all sorts of bizarre items scattered around the shelves. Some old newspapers, a Windows 95 for Dummies book, a 4 GB MP3 player, a hookah, biography of Amy Winehouse. This was definitely Hope's old room. Finally, you find a little box marked with a smiley face. When you open it, you are surprised to see something you recognize. A bunch of post-it notes with hand drawings depicting tattoos patterns that can be seen on Hope's body. Told you. You leave the closet and go back to the data room. There you wordlessly pass the box to Hope. At first she seems annoyed to be dragged away from work, but when she notices the post-it notes, her eyes become dinner plates. Me. You found those in the closet? You nod and look back at her expectantly. She takes a deep sigh, closes the box, and puts it in her bag. They want to make me go to rehab. Kara and I have a history. A pregnant pause. Don't expect me to lay it all out here. It's not something I want to revisit anytime soon. But I'm very, very grateful you gave this box to me. You don't even know how much. She tries to find the right words to express something, but after some brief consideration, just hand waves it away. Irony contaminated. Alright, we'll bond, reminisce, and get high another time. Now I've got a job to finish. She gets back to her hardware. You think she's completely absorbed in her work again, but then quickly notice she's doing her best to have her back facing you at all times. A while passes. Finally you hear a triumphant yell. Goatse in the shell. All done, baby! Looks like these boys are finally going to get a break. You realize that the constant silent rhythm of mechanical keyboards has stopped. The workers are all idling, slumped over their desks, completely resigned to the fact that their raison d'etre has disappeared. Hope hurriedly collects her hardware and motions you to follow after her. Alright, we're almost done. Now we just need to take care of the backups and we can get the hell away from here. You take a last glance at the ghouls and follow her steps. Yet another corridor, hardly discernible from the previous ones. This is a giant underground complex. How much money has Montgomery spent on it? Yep, you did catch the reference in that name. Good on you. Or don't, if this stirs any memories. But yes, as you can guess, Hope is still a shitposter extraordinaire. Hope looks around, frowning, mumbling something indecipherable. Eventually, she points in front of her. 7777777. There. This is where she must keep the backups. It's a sturdy metal door unlike any other in this building. Right next to it, however, is a voice-based security system you know pretty well by now. Please, 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 just no last second surprises. She hesitates to do it, but eventually she pushes the button. Eternal return. Hope dutifully types down the term on her phone. Eternal return. Access denied. Please try again. Hope hisses under her breath. This time you push the button. Double spiral. Tap, tap, tap. Double spiral. You feel like the time has frozen. For whatever reason, it takes longer than usual for the speaker to deliver the verdict. Access granted. What a relief. The metal doors grind loudly as they invite you in. This time, you walk in first and Hope follows. Wait a minute. You recognize this place. It shouldn't be here, but there's no two ways about it. This is Hope's haven. Same bed, same decorations, same ambience. It's all a lot more dusty, but XOXOX, do not disturb XOXOX. The backups are in the back. I'll just get them. She seems a little sheepish as she approaches the double spiral devices and unpacks her own hardware to take care of them. You take in your surroundings. Ah, so it's like that, huh? I understand everything now. That's not get it at all. Hope sighs. Doesn't take a genius to figure it out now. She looks at you as if she was about to add something, then bites her tongue and gets back to destroying her rival's life. She makes it obvious she does not want to re-examine her past. You rest against the bed, quietly watching Hope's technological wizardry and wondering about her past relationship with Kara for who knows how long. Every second you spend here, you become more impatient to get out. Eventually, the devices surrounding the double spiral backup start disappearing into the bag where they can be taken out of. Looks like the process is nearing completion. You decide to approach the door before it does. However, before you can even make a move, the doors begin to make a grinding noise. You freeze up, watching them open. Behind them stands the very person you were afraid would appear. That's the punk t-shirt you hoped you would avoid seeing tonight. Jesus fucking Christ almighty. Hope raises her head and their eyes meet. Both of their faces momentarily turn to stone. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. Oh. You could pick out any emotion from their stares and you'd probably be right. An unbearable tension fills the room as nobody wants to make the first move. Eventually, it's Hope who decides to break the stalemate by loudly pressing the enter button on her laptop and immediately dropping it into her bag. You doubt it's anything more than a provocation, the Malkavian letting her opponent know she won. But it works. The noise makes Montgomery snap out of her stupor. You psycho. You fucking demented, vindictive psycho. The air turns thick with murderous intent. Hi. Hope pretends she hasn't noticed. Kara's bloodthirst becomes palpable. You were supposed to be on the other side of the city right now, at the meeting. I am notified about every failed voice authentication attempt. I got back here expecting to find some idiots still trying to make their way through the front. She looks around. But I never expected... Just... how? Hope reluctantly types something down on her phone. I'm the CEO of Double Spiral and I endorse wrecking my shit. Kara grimaces at the sound of her own voice and quickly connects the dots. You fucking gremlin. How did you get your hands on that kind of tech? Even I... The new batch 1990. Company secret. Hope's provoking her, no two ways about it. Kara knows it, so she's trying to keep it cool. I built this paradise for you. For us. No Hope left. For yourself and nobody else. What happened to the Hope I used to know? She can't come out to the phone right now. She's dead. I regret the day I let you into my life. Stop lying to yourself, Kara. You only regret the day you let me out of my life. Shouldn't have let your mask slip, honey. A snappish response almost escapes Kara's mouth, but she manages to stop herself before letting the discussion devolve into a childish spat. Just tell me there's a copy of my data you haven't ruined, and I'll let you out of here alive. She gives you a hateful look. Both of you. Hope tilts her head and flashes an evil ear-to-ear grin. Truthful mass media. Not a single bit of data remains. More than a decade of your work down the drain. Welcome to the worst night of your life since the dot-com crash, Miss Montgomery. Kara looks as if a stake was just driven through her heart. She starts to collapse, sliding down against the door, like she was sinking deeper and deeper into her personal hell. Hope just stares at her torment, wearing an indecipherable expression, waiting for her rival to reach the floor. Then, she does. And there, at the lowest point of her life, she finds something unexpected. I never, ever wanted to do this. This is not me. Her voice sounds completely different. But if there's only one way out of this mess, I'm going to take it. I'm going to get my data back. Hope looks confused for a second. Then an understanding dawns on her. Me. Come on, Kara, you wouldn't dare. You started this game, now accept your loss. The game isn't over until all players are out of moves, honey. Baring your fangs now. There's two of us against one. Even if you commit the sin of diablerie, the consumption of another kindred's blood to the point of the victim's final death. Vampires may not only lower their generation permanently through this abhorrent practice, but also incorporate the target's very nature and spirit into themselves. So yes, it's just eating the other vampire and letting him become a part of you. Memories and all that, especially memories. The last time something like this happened to me, I was ready to die. I think I'll take my chances. It's not like I haven't dreamed about feeling my fangs inside you for a long, long time. So, you want to give me this one victory? Prove once and for all that I was right? It was never about me, but about all the stupid garbage in my head. A victory? Please, victories are material. They aren't like your little online arguments. She is serious about this, Eric. She wants to devour me as a whole. Sacrifice her humanity in exchange for access to my soul and everything I know. Stay away, Eric. You want money, data, domain privileges, a position at Double Spiral? Anything you want, you can get if you just look the other way. Don't listen to this shit. The moment the prince finds out, it's final death for... And Kara runs. Her moves resembling a beast more than human, immediately closing the distance to Hope. Then she jumps at the Malkavian like a wild animal hunting her prey. Hope instinctively attempts to defend herself, but is immediately overwhelmed. Laying on the ground, she looks like a deer in the headlights. Kara, on the other hand, looks like a bear ready to maul its victim. If you want to react, you need to do it now. Of course, this is the point we're gonna use our abilities. You push yourself to the limit and let your powers take over. The world slows down, letting you run up to Kara and Hope in the blink of an eye. You immediately grab Montgomery by her clothes and attempt to yank her aside. However, the moment she recognizes your touch, she immediately attempts to swat you down. Despite your supernatural speed, she's still almost as quick as you. Her limbs keep zooming wildly towards your vital areas. You dodge every one of them, but each time feels like narrowly jumping out of the way of an oncoming truck. You back away. Better try something different before she gets lucky and hits you. Calmly look around then. Wait. There's no point in just rushing in blindly. Kara's like a feral animal right now. You don't wrestle with those. You use tools to overwhelm them. You look at Hope's bag. Can any of her devices help? No. No way in hell. Think harder. You look at the bed, the pillows, the canopy, hooks hanging down from the ceiling. Bingo. You grab one of the hooks and yank the chain. It's long enough for your idea to work. You run up to Kara, who's about to maul Hope like a wild animal. Then you stab her with all of your strength. The hook gets deep underneath her skin. Kara yells, but there's more surprise than pain in her voice. You quickly wrap the chain around her a few times. Then you step back and start pulling it with all your strength. Kara's taken by surprise. Still not understanding what's going on, she loses her balance and gives her victim a chance to escape. Hope takes it. Still dazed, she takes a second to understand the situation. But when she does, she runs up to you and starts pulling the chain with you. Yells. You'd never handle her alone, but Hope displays surprising strength while pulling the chain. A minute later, she's hanging above the floor like a butcher's carcass. The end of the hook is stuck in her chest and it's sinking deeper as she struggles. However, she's flailing so wildly she might free herself before it puts her out of commission. Harder yell. You use one hand to desperately search for something that can help you under the bed. Belts, handcuffs, a whip, a giant cattle prod. You have no time to act bemusedly. You put it into her head and turn it on. The device must be modified. The power current is so powerful it causes scarring almost immediately. She's getting weaker and weaker. It takes Kara a while to accept defeat, but eventually she does. Her body seemingly lifeless, her head hanging down, she looks like a grotesque portrait of defeat. The hook must have reached her heart. It takes Hope a long time to collect herself. Eventually, she manages to speak up. Yes, we've gotten to this point, huh? Just like Kara before, Hope starts to talk in a completely different way than she usually does. You have a bad feeling about this. You want to add my data to yours? You know, I can grant you a wish, except not the way you've imagined it. Hope starts mumbling and circling around Kara. For the first time since you've met her, she acts like she doesn't have her phone in her hand. She locked in, and she's about to commit a cardinal sin. This violent aura. The Malkavian looks deeply into your eyes, and she knows you know what she's tempted to do. You silently beg her not to do it. It does not feel right. She makes her decision. She smiles beatifically, and it feels purposefully fake. Be my witness. I haven't harmed her. You left her here with me, and you have no idea what happened next. Her voice has still changed from what you've used to. She's not having fun. She's driven by malice. I've disabled security, so you're free to leave now. Call me whenever you need me. I'm a part of your coterie now, so I'll repay my debts or whatever. You give her a suspicious glare. It doesn't faze her, though. I've still got some unfinished business here. She turns to Kara's listless body. A puppet is dangling sadly by a single thread. It would be smart of you to leave. Her tone makes it clear she is not willing to discuss anything. Your relationship is strictly professional. You sigh, shrug your shoulders, and head out the way you came from. The lights of New York welcome you above ground. See you soon, Hope. Hope you don't get into trouble. You try to celebrate the new addition to your coterie, but Kara's face appears before your eyes over and over again, making your victory bittersweet. A fine addition. Now, to cap it off, let's pay a visit to D'Angelo. Or maybe you can wait a little bit. Let's go to Benoit. Benoit believes the time has come for you to meet Father Anthony. The holy man's presence terrifies you, but... approaching the cathedral on the street makes you nervous. You've been here twice, and twice something bad has happened. Or almost happened, as in both cases you ran away. Benoit suggested it's time to stop running and experience faith head-on. Perhaps he's right. Maybe it is cowardly to take refuge in rationalizations when you know what you felt. The holiness of the priest and your own damnation. Walking towards the doors of the cathedral, you glance at the bench where you sat when you first met Benoit. He's waiting for you, sitting and contemplating the cathedral's Gothic architecture. I wasn't certain I even wanted to talk to you after last time. I understand. I'm happy we chose to come. Benoit looks different than before. Intense. Certain. You've had some time to think about what we spoke of before. I want to learn more about Cain, about where we all came from. All in good time. I have something different in mind for tonight, as you surely remember. Let's go see Father Anthony. It's best not to talk in the cathedral, so I arranged for us to see him at his home. I have a car nearby. This better be on the level, Benoit. We're beyond that kind of tough talk, don't you think? You follow Benoit as he walks down the street until you come to his car, a surprisingly pedestrian family sedan. The essence of the masquerade is inconspicuousness. Nobody expects a vampire to drive a car like this. Benoit drives north towards Queens. During these moments, you feel most anonymous. Just another speck of dust in a vast machine where every action influences the whole in tiny ways. The one thing you've learned about the kindred is that they are not lacking in self-regard. The prince of a Camarilla city is said to rule the domain, yet how much do they really affect mortal affairs? If you ask a vampire, they'll say a lot. Perhaps that's what made Benoit turn inward. The futility of finding meaning in a secret predatory existence. Benoit stops in front of a red brick row house. A little run-down, but probably not cheap. Benoit notes your interest. Father Anthony comes from an old New York family. He inherited the house. When I first met him, I was suspicious, so I checked up on him. Despite the way he keeps putting you in dangerous situations, kindred paranoia seems to come naturally to Benoit. Perhaps that's something you can learn from him. Maybe. Isn't this a masquerade breach? I suppose, but we make ghouls all the time. We hunt. The masquerade is threatened regularly with much worse than this. You follow Benoit to the stairs, looking around for any signs of ambush. As you get to the door, the first signs of trepidation hit you. The discomfort, the pain that'll follow once you're inside. It feels like a physical thing, but a burning sensation under your skin, in your blood. You look to see how Benoit is taking it. He's smiling, eyes closed for a second before knocking on the door. Almost as if he's enjoying the sensation. Fucking masochist. The door opens and you see Father Anthony's kindly face. Your body feels as if in a vice. You haven't really been bothered by hot or cold since you were embraced, but now it feels like the surface of your skin is overwhelmed with sensation. The fear and terror are paralyzing. Yes. You barely hear Benoit's whisper. Come in, you two. I might not know much, but I know enough not to do this on the porch. You force yourself to follow Father Anthony into the apartment, despite the splitting headache and rising panic. It's hard to take in your surroundings. Everything seems to vibrate, seeking to engulf you. Framed portraits on the mantelpiece, a cross on the wall, a living room with lots of books, many of them old. I'm not sure I can offer you anything. You don't drink tea, I suppose? No, we don't. Please, is there salvation for our kind? There is salvation for everyone. God's grace is infinite. We just have to find your way there. Please, Father, you know this is difficult for us. You'll forgive me if I don't waste time. Father Anthony looks pained, whether because of the rudeness or out of sympathy for your condition, you can't tell. He motions for you to sit down, but you and Benoit are both too agitated to do so. You feel trapped, like a moth being smeared against the burning light bulb. It's hard to look at Father Anthony, but you can't look at anything else either. Benoit is starting to look increasingly unhinged. His eyes look as if he is seeing into some divine beyond just outside the grasp of your senses. Now is the time, my friend. You have to decide if you're ready for salvation. Prove your faith by embracing the Father and let His radiance envelop you. Please, Benoit. It hurts. You are damned. It's supposed to hurt. Just kneel and be blessed. As the burning pain wrecks your body, Benoit pushes you down on your knees. You don't resist, too consumed by the holy suffering inflicted on you. Startled, Father Anthony takes a step back. Benoit, what are you doing? Father, it is time to be redeemed. For both of us. Benoit falls to his knees next to you, lifting his face in full embrace of the holy agony. This is not right, Benoit. Everyone has a chance for salvation. I understand there is something in God's presence that burns you, but you can work through it. Please, Benoit, there are many ways for salvation and we'll find yours. I won't hurt you and your friend. Benoit moans in pain, stricken with grief and disbelief at Father Anthony's refusal. Please, Father, they don't even believe. Not truly. Father Anthony looks at you and seems to waver. Even his belief in salvation has limits. What a choice, huh? I'm not gonna kill the Father Anthony. Run away or Professor Belief. We still have unfinished business, so I suppose we can... How much is it gonna hurt anyway? Well, yes, I was not going to kill him anyway, I know that. This has gotten too long. You must summon the last reserves of your blood and escape. In less time than it takes to blink, you are at the door and outside, using your vampiric speed to escape the pain and fear of Father Anthony's holy presence. You're about to stop at the curb, but glancing back, you realize Benoit is right behind you. The philosophical, rueful Benoit is gone. Instead, you see a man twisted by resentment and abandonment, burning with a hate towards you. The mask is off, and you realize that he wants you to burn under Father Anthony's touch, even if he has to force you to do it. You're fast enough that for most bystanders you're just a blur. A quick movement that's already gone by the time they start paying attention. Still, running on the street does no favors to the masquerade. There are 1,000 cameras on the streets of New York, and as you run past pedestrians, the odds of someone starting to wonder increase. Benoit is past caring. You hear a low growl as he gains on you, fangs out, ready to tear at your neck. You duck into an alley, hoping there's somewhere for you to go. A homeless man stares right at you as you streak past. Benoit can't be far behind. It's not very dignified, but beggars can be choosers. You jump into a dumpster and pull the lid closed. You lie still in the stench of the garbage. In moments like these, you're grateful for not having to breathe. Is Benoit still outside? Did he fall for it? You wait for what seems like an eternity, before you cautiously lift the lid of the dumpster. Just the alley. Benoit is nowhere in sight. You escaped. You're safe, but the implications of your experience are troubling. What does this mean? Whether practical or spiritual, it feels like you have to think about this for a long time. You're free to return to your haven, and there is a distinct temptation to keep the events of the night to yourself. Yet these events cannot be good for the masquerade. I think it's time we actually talk to Sophie about Benoit, considering he mentioned he was her child. You make your way to Sophie's apartment, seeking comfort in the anonymity of the crowds of New York's sidewalks. Some are coming from a late shift at work, others are going out. You nod to the doorman and slip into Sophie's building, go up and knock on her door. Sophie opens the door in the middle of a phone call. She motions you to come in as she mumbles assent to the phone. She could be talking about earth-shattering secrets or an acquisition from an art gallery. Following Sophie's cue, you sit down in the living room. A few moments later, Sophie ends her call and sits down opposite you, regarding you with her usual mix of paternalism and disdain. You appear shaken up. That's not a good look to cultivate in the world of the kindred. I have to tell you something about Benoit, your child. Benoit? I haven't heard from him in a while. Where did you dig him up? Benoit is talking to mortals about us. You should talk to him before this escalates. Sophie fidgets as if she wanted to escape a tedious responsibility. Fine. I guess I'll have to. I'll stop Benoit from doing something that will get him killed. You leave Sophie's apartment wondering how things will play out between sire and child. Benoit seemed to yearn for something from Sophie, but you're pretty sure he'll never get it, no matter what he does. I will say that was pretty eventful. All things considered. However, right now I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking this is where I will have to call it for tonight, at least for now. I'm sure you've enjoyed all of this occurring as much as I did. I know you were there at least for the Hope personal quest. So, stop by tomorrow where we continue our foray into Warhammer 40k Battle Sector. For now, I'd like to thank you all for attending, and I will see you all